Connor, I've always thought of you as like a baby brother of sorts.
Oh, well, I always kind of thought of you as my dad.
And with that, welcome to Cinema Forecast. My name, of course, as mentioned in the introduction, is Alfredo, and sitting to my left today is.
Back at it again, it's Connor.
That's right. And as you may well know at this point, this is Cinema Forecast. This is the movie podcast where every month we are randomly assigned a category by the legally distinct movie roulette. Attached to said category are 4 movies that we believe fit said category. And each week we go in depth, underwater deep, like in a submarine, Jacques Cousteau style,
Wow.
to discuss one of those films in the context of the category, of course. And this month is.
We're doing aquatic films, Alfredo. We're finishing out aquatic films, our last one.
Yes, finishing it out with The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
I totally forgot that it had the with Steve Zissou on the end of it when I was talking about it last week until I turned it on to watch it.
I could never forget. I'm a big Wes Anderson fan. I wrote a paper in film school about Grand Budapest Hotel, and I watched that movie like maybe a dozen times for that
Hell yeah.
project, and I had a really good time with it. So I was really stoked to dive into Wes Anderson. He is such a unique director.
Absolutely.
I think I was also reaching back into my mind to try and think about the first time I watched this. And I think this is going to be another one of the Netflix DVD era movies I watched. I think I remember watching it with my sister. I don't know if I was watching it with my parents at all, but just being very taken by it as this movie came out in 2004. So
I thought it was 2005.
I think it was December 25th, 2004.
Oh, wow.
And so I probably saw it around the time, probably being at least 14, if not 15, and feeling very, very taken with it. You know, there's this charm to it. I think at this point I had already seen Royal Tenenbaums as well, so I'm like a little bit aware of like his pattern. But I don't think it was probably Darjeeling Limited was the first movie of his where I was like, I like Wes Anderson. Like this, I am a fan, and
Yeah.
I'm excited for this upcoming film. But yeah, I always had a very like pleasant, cozy association with it as well. You know, it's just like one of those movies to watch in your pajamas.
Totally, I can see that. Well, yeah, I'll just say I'm a big admirer of Wes Anderson. I wouldn't say like all of his work is my favorite, but just I love how unique and how stylistic. Like it's so just like has this. Nothing else looks like it.
Yeah.
Nothing else sounds like it. Nothing else feels like a Wes Anderson film, and I think that's so cool. It's so distinct.
If artistry and filmmaking is about intentionality, there's no one who like is more in your face about intention than Wes Anderson, I think. You know? I think very interesting to think about the fact that he is like from Texas too. Like, you know, I like it. He feels like he would be somewhere like in like New England from like some super waspy family. But yes, do you remember
I
the
can
first
see
time
that.
the first time you saw this one?
No, I was thinking about that while you were talking about it, and I don't really. I think this is only like the third or fourth time I've seen it. Probably. I think it was just one of those movies a friend put on one time while we were doing other stuff, so I just caught little glimpses of it, and then I think I finally like sat down because then I went through like I think it was also Grand Budapest Hotel where it's like I'm gonna go check out this guy's other movies because I really like this, and I went back and revisited this one, and I thought it was great. I mean, I think they're all great. From what I guess I already said they're not all my favorite, but I think they're all such unique little like snow globes of like you said, cozy is how you described feeling with this movie in your
sounds
pajamas.
like what you're saying is that you appreciate that there is space in like the commercial filmmaking world for this to exist.
Yeah. Like I'm just like glad that even if one of his movies doesn't click with me as much as another, I'm just glad he's doing his thing and that people are liking it and that this is a thriving piece of like auteur art.
Yeah, and I think like, I think he's from Austin, and if I'm remembering correctly, Austin does have this sort of like keep Austin weird sort of motto, similar to our neighbors to the south, Portland. Who stole from who? Probably Portland, but whatever. He does have that sort of like keep film like quirky sort of like vibe to him, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and this is like some more than others, but we were talking about this a little bit before we started that his movies are very funny, very quirky, very silly, but also have this like dark message underneath them a lot of times, or at least a very like meaningful message underneath it.
Yeah, we were joking about something, and you said, "Oh, we just do something super dark," and I was like, "No, his movies are dark." Because I think that's something I has always like been like in my head about his film is that
I think we were talking about the intro, right? And we were like, oh, we could just do something really twisted.
Yeah, I think you said like to to be different, but I was like, I don't know, man. Wes Anderson's kind of twisted, dude.
Yeah. There's definitely some heart wrenching stuff in this. I think this is definitely the most impacted emotionally I've been watching it. Like I've always like there were parts of it that lingered with me, but this is the time that I feel like I really got inside. And part of it is just doing this podcast where I'm like looking for the themes more. And I'm like paying more attention to what am I going to talk about? Who is Steve Zissou? What makes him tick? What is the arc here? What is the hero's journey? Like stuff like that,
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of themes, did you wanna hit him with it?
Yeah, so we have 9 themes. Just what stood out to me when thinking about what evokes water films, aquatic films, right? What is it about the ocean? What is it about humanity that connects with that and wants to make a story around that? Number 1, freedom. Number 2, sanctity of land, isolation, man versus nature, Lovecraftian horror, the unknown, insanity, beauty of nature, longing.
Hell yeah. Some of the things that we've been talking about in a cinematographic sense are vast shots. I think it really does come into play with setting, like movies where that setting is going to be very important, like a desert film as well. Like you want a very wide shot, a lot of those like lonely shots of like a figure in the middle. And I did go and sort of do my more in-depth little write-up for the end of the month. I could do it right now. I could save it for the end of the episode. What do you think?
Let's talk about it at the end.
Sounds good. Good. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, you too. And
hey, thanks.
One thing that really, just on the note of aquatic film, I do think when we talked about Waterworld last week with our good friend Jacob, we were talking about just like this idea of the Western in Waterworld and like the idea of a loner, and that did kind of get me thinking about that more in general in ways that I hadn't really connected the desert theme and the water theme of just like because we wrote down isolation in each of them, like they share themes of course, but just the term in terms of just like what they represent to being alone in an unwelcoming, harsh environment. What stories can you tell around that?
Yeah, and I think some of the most interesting versions of this are examining how culture bends and reshapes itself around the resources available to it, and like ultimately the setting that we find ourselves in. And I think that's why these two friggin' categories back to back have been interesting. Now it feels like we were asking ourselves this question in the Hero's Journey month when we were like, what is the podcast gonna look like after this, right?
Yeah.
And I think I was a lot more sort of like, whatever, we'll just like see what happens, like it's feels strong enough, let's just fucking ride it out, right? Like we can talk about themes and stuff. And now I'm like two like very related sort of categories. So we're spinning the wheel tonight, so it's gonna be cool to see where we go.
I'm very excited to spin the wheel. Yeah,
it's gonna be different. Like like I even before we spin the wheel, I want to kind of go through the categories and talk about like how this is gonna fit into like the pattern that we've sort of established with these first 3 months first 12 episodes. That's right, folks. Thanks for listening, and welcome to episode 12 of fucking Cinema Forecast.
Hell yeah. We love things divisible by 4.
I was thinking the same thing, baby. Not just that, we also love the number 3.
Oh, yeah.
We'll just leave it at that. Let's jump into the fucking film. So this is Wes Anderson, known to write all of his films. He does collaborate with people. On this one, he worked with Noah Baumbach, who, he has done like The Marriage Story, Meyerowitz.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that show was called. Or is that a movie? That's a movie. It is a movie. But and then Noah Baumbach, he also did the Squid and the Whale. You know, he's this writer that's definitely like very present. Now has directed several films of his own, within Hollywood. We've got also a constant collaborator of Wes Anderson's and Robert Yeoman, who is the director, the cinematographer, director of photography. We were talking about this right before we started rolling, and from the band Devo, we have Mark Mothersbaugh. I
didn't realize that until I looked it up just before, and I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, and then it makes sense because there's a lot of really cool synthy shit in the underwater
it's such
scenes.
A quirky, like you were talking about quirky, like the soundtrack of this movie captures that tone so well of just like, it is all over the place emotionally, but it like fits this only this little world that Wes Anderson can build,
Yeah, there's a lot of juggling that's going on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to make this happen in like a palatable way. And along that same sort of line, the production design is done by Mark Friedberg. I had a note about the costumes as well. I think the costumes are so fucking well done. And even though the ultimately the costume design, that is Milena Canonero, who is responsible for that. Ultimately, like basically just like a Jacques Cousteau. And it's so funny because I love this movie, but I never knew what he looked like until I Googled him today. First image, him wearing the fucking red beanie.
Yeah, and it also reminds me very much of, I'm spacing on the cartoon that the Venture Brothers is based on, but that kind of like, that like old school like cartoon.
Johnny Quest.
Yeah, Johnny Quest. Like, yeah, we're gonna go on an adventure. Like, yeah, and like it has that
It feels very pulpy.
undertone to it that I really appreciate, and like especially as we get into it and you see like, even though he's like a jaded bastard, how like he really is this kind of superhero.
Yeah, Steve Zissou sucks. I'll say that up top. And I think that what I was worried about was like watching this. I was like, oh man, is this gonna ruin the movie? And then watching it, I was reminded like, no, the movie has the point of view that Steve Zissou is a piece of shit. So that was a little refreshing. There are some things that I'm definitely gonna shout out when they happen because they were like almost jarring, and you definitely felt like the 20 years that have passed since this movie came out. But along with some more of the cruise shit we were talking about, not to get too ahead of ourselves as we often like to do here at Cinema Forecast, the animation by for the fish, some of it is stop motion. Do you know who did this?
No.
Henry Selick. Do you recognize that name?
I recognize the name.
If I asked you who directed The Nightmare Before Christmas, what would you say?
Tim Burton?
You would, wouldn't you?
I would. Am I wrong?
I think this is a thing that I know for. I think it is Henry Selick who actually directed it.
Whoa.
It is, yeah, it is. I was certain of it, but then I asked the question and I like doubted myself.
Wow.
But yeah, Henry Selick is the actual director of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Interesting.
So he is a big animation guy.
Wow.
And
that's a shame because I feel like a lot of people would say Tim Burton.
Yeah, I think he wrote the story. So Henry Selick is the guy who does the fish, and I think they have this quirky, freaky little nature that can only really be captured like in like a Wes Anderson movie. So it was a really cool little collab to see there.
I loved all the little cool animation
collabs,
stuff. Yeah, no, it's right before we started too, we were just looking over the cast, and it's just like, man, what a stacked cast, what a fun cast.
Not like nowhere near his most stacked cast either, which is so wild about Wes Anderson. So many people, obviously want to work with him. So really says something about like him as a filmmaker. I feel like
He even got the legendary 3-timer now on Cinema Forecast. Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe.
We stand Willem Dafoe on this podcast. I was thinking about that though. That is literally 25% of our episodes has featured Willem Dafoe.
25%. We should try and like when we like do the draft, we should try and like maintain like a reasonable level
Of
like
Willem
like
Dafoe.
20 to 30% Willem Dafoe.
There will be a meter at the top, and it will be at the Willem Dafoe. And if the Willem Dafoe drops,
Defometer.
yeah, the
Defometer.
Defometer.
The
If it
Defometer.
drops beneath a certain level, bad things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking now. And I also want to shout out. I don't really know how to say his name. He's Brazilian.
Seu Jorge.
Yes, man. The way he's utilized in this film just really stood out to me more and more. He's the guitarist throughout the film. He's like this perfect little like palate cleanser that he uses after like, and it's often after really emotional scenes, or if he's about to go into a tone shift, and it's like so effective at just like setting a mood and then dropping you into the next scene.
This movie is a stage play.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah. All the
it
sets and stuff.
it
It's so
plays
cool.
with that when you're watching it. Like I like when like there's an amazing one shot that I could see. I mean, it would take a lot to do it, but you could almost picture somebody building this set
Yeah.
of like the Belafonte and
Oh my
them walking
gosh.
around it.
Yeah.
But it is like it has so many of these things about it that I feel like really fit that sort of like vibe of like like this whole sort of like stage thing. And I think with him
Yeah.
it does feel like a very sort of like old school, almost like maybe even call him like the chorus, like the old school Greek chorus, right? Throughout the play.
Yeah, totally. I love that.
I think it's super fun. I love to see all the Portuguese language versions of like the
All these
David
songs.
Bowie songs.
And it's still very quirky and so
I
like
didn't know it the first few times I watched it, I think. And then somebody was like, "Oh yeah, Seu Jorge, I love like how he's doing all the David Bowie songs." And I was like, "Oh, those are all David Bowie songs." And when it finally like landed, I was like, "That's dope." And then even at the end, they actually play
the original version.
they played David Bowie, and then like after that, as the credits
What
keep
was
rolling,
it? Killer Bitch? Queen Bitch, I think is the name of the song.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes. And then he does it again in Spanish. I mean, not
In
in
Portuguese,
Spanish.
yeah.
In Portuguese.
Yeah, and I did watch. It was one of the few times where I stopped the next thing playing on Amazon, and I like
You caught it this time.
and I because I wanted to watch the whole thing.
Unlike Jaws.
Yeah, I know. What a shame I am.
No. What a shame. Dude, shame Amazon. Don't fucking
Yeah.
shame yourself.
Yeah, no, it's crazy that they would cut
How
out
dare
the
they?
because the movie's not over
How
in the
dare
credits
they?
for this movie. Like it's
dare
really
they?
not. So yeah, I watched the whole performance and it's perfectly synced up with the credit length, which I'm like, yeah, nailed it, killed it. Just those two songs back to back for the end of the movie and your
Super
credits.
well done.
Yeah.
Super well done. But let's go back to the beginning. I love how we have this really cool thing with them starting the film with a film. Not only is it meta, but it's also the curtains give us this more classic sort of like 4:3 aspect ratio.
Yeah.
And like it's also sort of showing it's like these two things where we're like I feel like you want to feel like you're in like an older time while
Yeah.
watching this, because movies have this sort of like suspended timeline sort of vibe where it feels like this is the 70s or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know.
But then the curtains show you that you have that like, that 2.35, like that's like how the movie's actually going to be.
Yeah, and I love just what he does in multiple movies, but this movie a lot is that removed layer, like you said, a movie within a movie. Like Grand Budapest Hotel is like a story told within a book of like someone's story
All the
being
framing
told.
devices, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a very interesting trick narratively because I think it does immediately immerse you in the world you're in, because it's pulling you into what the people in this world want to know about and are curious about, and what this like. It's just a very interesting way to immediately suspend your disbelief.
And like, what a fun like little subculture to explore. Like oceanographers, that's fucking sick. That's an
Yeah.
awesome idea.
And they're
Like,
like Indiana Jones oceanographers too, where they're like they're all loaded up with guns
yeah,
and like
yeah, for sure.
and ready to go on crazy adventures, dangerous exhibitions. Yeah, it's great.
And from the very beginning, we have this amazing production design, really cool costumes, as we've said, as Wes Anderson is well known for. I really, with the curtains too, we get a setup of a very important color in this movie, which is the color red, which has like dual linked meanings throughout the film. I think it is Jacques Cousteau himself, I guess, said that he liked to wear a red cap because it symbolized like adventure. And I think the other side of that coin, adventure is this whole sort of thing of like discovery and the unknown, right? And within that, there is the threat of death. There is real danger. And I think that will come into play throughout the film. And I, being a professor of film, will point those out to each of you when they happen.
I'm excited. Yeah, I wasn't thinking, I was going to say this is one of the movies more so than the others where I just kind of wanted to stop taking notes and just like take it in because it's so jam packed with like
Yeah, no,
content.
You were asking me about how much notes I took, and I don't have a great way to gauge it, but I did feel like I was taking less notes, just because I was like, fuck, like I wanted to write everything down, so I was like, that means I should like write much less
all
down.
of the like film techniques, all the dialogue, like all the like comedic lines, all the little character moments, all the like cool shots, you're just kind of like, oh man, this is so much to freaking write down.
Yeah, and I think so. This introductory thing is really serving like a really good purpose for setting up the crew as well.
Yeah.
Like we get everyone's sort of specialty.
Yes, I always love this one. It's just like this is
the
character,
crew, yeah.
this is this character, yeah.
And it's done in a fun way within the framing device, and then the whole part with I think we immediately get that Wes Anderson thing of like, this is so goofy and quirky, and then suddenly like Steve having his like hydrogen psychosis, right? Like we're like, and the whole back and forth about like he was eaten alive,
Yeah,
like
Esteban.
like he swallowed whole, no chewed, like that's so funny, but really fucked up and terrifying. And you can and like the way Bill Murray plays it is like so, I think, well done. And then we have that insert, like that close up shot that they get of his eyes. You've got crazy eyes,
I just gotta point out the script girl.
Yeah,
she's just always naked, I guess.
No, she's topless for the first, like, I think, few parts of the movie, and then she later on, I'm pretty sure
Is
it's
that Anne Marie?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was her, but I wasn't sure because I didn't.
Yeah, so
I guess I didn't recognize her without.
And I actually enjoyed that happened in the movie because you're like, oh, she's just gonna be like topless the whole time. Like, is this like gratuitous like sex object? And then she actually ends up
having a lot of agency.
Yeah, for sure, exactly.
For sure. Yeah, and like just a couple notes from this whole montage of the crew being introduced. You get the safety expert, and he's just like
just
tossing
throws the dynamite
in the water. Just like such a
That's
fun.
Seu Jorge. He's the safety expert.
I love him. He's the best. And yeah, the whole Esteban was eaten, and just how flatly it's delivered. And just Willem Dafoe, just he swallowed the whole.
Yeah, and then like I said, it's fucking horrifying because he says no, he was chewed up. Like he's saying he watched him get chewed up in front of him.
And just like the mystery of the jaguar shark, right? That's gonna be the Moby Dick of this movie. It's funny, like Moby Dick, water, can't get away from it, like man versus nature.
Well, I think there is this, what better way to encapsulate the unknown to strive for than like some great beast from the depths, right?
Yeah.
Like it is a piece of the unknown coming out from the unknown and holding a mirror up to our face, and in our reflection we only see the void, like that's like the vibe I get
some
from
Lovecraftian horror.
It is the indifference of the universe coming to not.
Just you think you're in control. Steve Zissou thinks that this is his world,
Yeah. And the
and
world proves him wrong, you know?
and
Like,
now he wants revenge.
and he says that. He says that. Like,
Yeah, I love the whole Q&A session they have.
why are they laughing?
Revenge is the scientific purpose. Is what
Yeah,
he
yeah.
says.
Yeah, they ask him why do you want revenge? And I love how he's like, yeah, he just says it so like that's another major aspect of these
Wes
of
Anderson.
his sort of style is this sort of like very like blasé
Yeah.
delivery.
Yeah, extremely dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yet this movie, like, you know, like I got emotional
Oh yeah.
a couple of times.
Me too. I was surprised. Like as I was saying, this was the time the movie emotionally impacted me the most, and I do think part of that was just that I was putting myself in the mind of the characters more than I usually do, and not getting swept away by the style as much.
I knew it was going to.
Hell yeah.
It usually does. I get yeah, Wes Anderson movies choke me up, man.
Yeah, no, I remember Grand Budapest Hotel definitely hits.
Royal Tenenbaums.
Royal Tenenbaums hits for sure. There's some stuff in Darjeeling Limited. I've only seen that one once. Yeah, great director, great writer, good stuff. I do want to point out, I didn't really think about this until like in hindsight, but I do want more Esteban in this movie, dude. Like, there's so much about like who Esteban was in the crew, and it like a lot of times it doesn't really feel like he's gone. Like, it doesn't really feel like that hole in the crew is there. Like, I want more of what it was like with Esteban, or more around that.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. Like, I wonder if he's supposed to be the one that like kept like Zissou like driving him. Like maybe he was like sort of his sounding board, or his like the guy who would sort of encourage him.
Yeah,
Like, which is something that we sort of see like Ned do.
yeah,
Like towards the end.
that's a good point.
So I mean, like I still agree with you. Like I think and because even there's like the like echo of what could have been there.
It feels like there's just a little of them. You don't need to do a lot with it, but like a little missed opportunity.
Yeah,
just,
I think
like,
there could have. I think there could have been
Esteban.
more. You know, also maybe even just like, here's your quarters. This was Esteban's old room.
I mean, they already have a device to show you, which they could have just shown you at the beginning of the movie more, like a moment of their relationship. Maybe that would slow it down too much, you know. But like, you know, they have so much film, and that keeps coming up throughout the movie. You could just do it through a moment.
Yeah,
in
for
a
sure,
film.
absolutely. He could be like maybe even find like Steve, you know, sitting in the room like watching maybe some old footage of him and Esteban or something.
But I know what you're thinking at home. Everyone's a critic. Yeah, we'll get back to the movie.
I love in this next scene, you know, he meets this sort of new head of the film society, and she's kind of like she seems to be sort of like saying like no, I get it, they don't get it.
Yeah,
you know, and he's definitely seems kind of like defeated already. And I think that in this moment it's very funny that they ask him to then take a picture with Hennessy, and there's this cool visual thing where Jeff Goldblum, who plays Hennessy, he's wearing two more medals.
I love this so much.
Than Steve
so
Zissou. And I think that's fucking funny because like it just shows how they're both successful, but he's just a little bit more successful. You know?
Yeah, I mean, he's got the bigger boat later, we see. Yeah.
Oh, he's got a huge fucking boat.
He's got an underwater lab, yeah.
And then I love like is this Esteban where they say like, oh, you know, Eleanor is the brains behind the team, and then they're like, what is Steve? And Esteban goes, he's the Zissou.
Yeah. I think it is. Yeah, that's great.
It's so he's literally like there's like he's the figurehead.
Yeah.
Right? He's the like
He's the guy.
mascot around which we rally.
Yeah. Which, yeah, pretty much. I was just thinking about this right now in terms of the hero's journey. I do think that Ned being up in the crowd and asking
what's next
is his call to adventure moment, and not because not the adventure he thinks he's going on, right? He thinks he's gonna go make this new.
He's gonna go kill the jaguar shark.
Yeah, he's gonna make his like magnum opus revenge story film, right? It's all about the film, but it's really more of a story about him and Ned and that humanity's missing out on, I guess.
Yeah, I think he feels lost without Esteban, and it's about refinding why, like rediscovering why he does what he does. It is, I think, a story of someone so caught in like, this is what we do, that like the death gives them a moment to examine, like why keep doing this, right? Because I think he has this thing where he's like, he's like mediocre, right? He's like in a slump, like a lot of their movies haven't been doing well, and it's like,
Yeah, I think he's like a couple times they mentioned the last 10 years.
yeah, like he hasn't
Things
made a
have
good
gone
documentary in the
downhill.
last 9 years. Is
Yeah.
I think something that gets said as well at some point. I think to since we were talking about the end credits, I do love friggin' Klaus's nephew
Yeah.
bringing the crayon pony fish.
Yes, the crayon pony fish, so fun. Yeah, like you were talking about, yeah, all the like claymation, stop motion stuff is just so freaking cool.
It looks sick as fuck. I also like the old man fan who like asks him to sign stuff, and he goes anche questa, anche questa.
Yeah, I like this
It's like,
guy
how many of
too.
these things you got? He's like, just forge them yourself. So fucking funny.
And it really sets up who this guy is, right? Because you don't really get a sense of who's.
Because he's undermined in the first
Yeah.
scene, right?
Right.
So you kind of want to like show like no, like
he
people
used
still
to be great.
people still
Yeah,
respect him too.
Yeah.
Like people are fans,
Right.
and I think it also shows like I mean it's comedic, but I wouldn't say charlatan, but he's a bit of like a piece of shit,
Well, I was gonna say, in a weird way, he's kind of the Daniel Plainview, the There Will Be Blood of our aquatic films, where he's so driven by his like desire to be like the best at what he does, or to be like the star.
The most famous oceanographer.
Yes, like his ambition around that and how that blinds him.
He's very obsessed with this image he's built up of himself as well.
Yeah, so much ego, crazy. He's an aquatic man.
He really is. The guy asks him. He says, how come you're not sending Shiva for your buddy Esteban? And then he just immediately goes and like fucking
He says,
tries to
"Who
choke
are you
him.
going to kill in part 2?"
Yeah.
What an asshole.
And then he takes a picture of him with his disposable Kodak camera.
But also, what tragic foreshadowing, right?
Yeah, it really is. It's fucked up because it's true. It ends up being true. I do like the business with the crayon pony fish and how he saves it in the little glass.
Champagne glass. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that too.
Also love how as he walks out, he dons his iconic red knit cap, of course.
Yes. Yeah, I love just the imagery of all of them in their like tuxedos with the red caps on. It's just really funny to me.
It's sick. I love it. I think they look cool as fuck.
Yeah, it's great.
I love their vibe. Like they're just like they just seem like a cool crew to be. Like, maybe Hennessy's the most successful, but like what crew would I most want to be on, Those guys, dude.
Well, I almost get a
They're
sense.
drinking, smoking. Like, I mean, dude, Zissou's smoking. How many? Did we get a doobie count for this movie?
A lot of doobies. I would say that maybe Hennessy is more wealthy, but Zissou is more of a like star because of all of his films and adventures. Like you don't really get a sense that Hennessy's been going on these crazy adventures.
No, Hennessy is the most successful. He hogs all the grant money. He says it.
Well, yeah, research wise.
Yeah, for sure,
yeah.
exactly. That's what
That's
I'm saying. Also, like
But does he have a fan club that has rings?
Yeah, maybe not. We don't know too much about the Hennessy verse. I do also like that at the end he's on the ship with the rest of them as well.
Oh, that the whole their whole relationship is really funny throughout the whole movie. He's such an asshole too. I'll never forgive him for walking over to hit the dog.
Yeah, for sure.
What
That's
the hell,
so fucked
dude?
up. We also do get I forgot to mention when after they take the picture together, he's talking to Eleanor about Hennessy, and he does say the line about like I'll never forgive you for laying that slick F word, and I'm just like fuck, that's right. Like the last few times I've seen it, I was like, oh man, and this time I was like, oh that's right, I knew it was coming, but I like just like forget about it because it's like with a lot of things you love, you just kind of like
right.
you just
A blip.
yeah, like you just kind of fucking try to like cover over them, like paint over them.
But it was said by a guy who hits dogs, so
What?
wasn't it?
No, Steve Zissou says that about Hennessy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so like, and it is a thing throughout the movie where he's saying that he's implying that he's gay and like, using in like kind of like a derogatory fashion. And then at the end, like he does say,
Oh yeah,
I have a good excuse. Like we never made great husbands, did we? I have a good
I'm a
excuse.
little bit gay.
I'm part gay.
Right.
And then he does say to him, we're all supposed to be a little or something like that, like or we're like supposedly we all are.
Yeah.
So there is this like I guess awareness. Don't love hearing that word, but I think that like again, this character is a piece of shit. I
Yeah.
believe in that time when it was supposed to be set, or even the time that the movie came out, that would definitely be something that someone of that caliber person would say.
Oh yeah.
But
I bet.
just want to address that.
I was
on the front
surprised,
end.
but then I was immediately like, yeah, tracks.
Cracks for him, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and then we get Ned properly introducing himself at the after party, and yeah, he's like, eventually they're very much just kind of beating around the bush, and eventually he's just like, "You're supposed to be my son, right?" Such a awkward and like there's so much of that in the Wes Anderson films where it's just like extremely emotional stuff delivered in the driest, most deadpan way. Just like, yep, this is extremely awkward right now. Well, okay. Talk to you later.
For sure. I think there's before in the last couple scenes before this, we're also getting we know that there are financial troubles on the
Yeah.
horizon
I think
for-
that's when they talked about. I have after
well, the first time it's mentioned is right after he leaves the screening.
right,
He's like, this is
his like agent he's talking to, right?
yeah, Osieri. He is introducing him to this guy who's like the head of Saudi Film. His last name's like Amin.
Right.
And he's like, we can get you money, blah, and like deal eventually falls through, of course. But we're setting up like they're trying to find funding of some sort and setting that up from the very beginning. And then Michael Gabon is the guy who plays this this character who I really like. I love the way he like talks to him. I can't. What is he saying to him he's saying something to him at the beginning where he's Michael Gambon, sorry, where he's calling him like my dear or something like that. I don't know, but he just has
There was just so much jammed into this movie.
absolutely. And then again, so at the party they are talking about it. You see that Eleanor is clearly the brains, right? Because
Yeah.
she's like
I love Eleanor, man. What a great character.
Angelica Houston in Wes Anderson movies is I always enjoy.
I thought, yeah, her performance and her like character was just like a powerhouse part of the movie for me because she's not in much of it, but she just has such a presence every time she's in the story.
Yeah, she really gives them a lot of direction, in the film. Like she is this sort of like intellectual center that like points the arrow forward.
Totally. Yeah.
I also want to call out my mom is a big Criminal Minds fan, and Matthew Gray Gubler or Gubler, I don't know how to say that part of his name. He's like one of the interns who we see later on, like he gets like hit in the shoulder with a machete, and then at the very end in the credits,
Yes.
he's like a member of the crew.
Oh, I love that.
But
whole
yeah, I
arc.
just want to call out that I remember watching it, like one of the times I watched it after having seen Criminal Minds, I was like, oh shit, it's that guy.
That's so funny. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I do want to point out there's an amazing shot after he tells him, he's like, after you're my son, right? And he just like walks away, and it's playing a Ziggy Star song, I think, and he's just like walking to the front of the ship. He like, I think, takes a hit of his joint, and it's just like extremely cinematic, and that's like that's where he really shines for me in moments like that, where he can get away with not like with having these kind of deep emotional stories with very little emotion shown, very dry conversations, but then he lets you feel that moment with Steve just by yourself, like him just like letting it sink in. You see how he handles it, and then he comes back and continues his conversation with him.
Yeah, and I think like the characters do show like emotions, like they get frustrated, and there is like a range, and there is this sort of like flat delivery, but I feel like
I would say it's just more muted.
I think a
in
lot of
general.
like muted for sure. I think the actors are just given a lot of sort of like they really have to own their roles in that sense because it
Yeah.
is like that sort of like it's not like a blank expression on his face. There's this like sadness to Bill Murray's performance throughout the film. There is this like hesitant
Yeah.
like
No,
need from like
there's
Owen
definitely
Wilson's
a lot of
like
emotion
performance
for sure.
as well. But it's so under the surface.
Yeah.
And I
It's just
think
extremely understated.
yeah. It's I feel like a lot is being balanced here.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
think that's why it's easy for some people to say that a lot of his movies like fall flat for them. It's
Yeah.
because like you're spinning all these plates, you
Yeah.
know, and like I think it's easy to like for some people to kind of be like, no, too much.
Well, you know what it reminds me of? It's like, they usually they call like if someone calls something too theatrical, right? They're saying that it's too over the top, too much. Like they're giving too big of a performance. It just hits as unrealistic. And the way that Wes Anderson writes is it does feel unrealistic, but in a way that very much fits this world he's made, where this is how people talk to each other. It doesn't feel natural. Like it's like Tarantino, right? Like nobody talks like people in a Tarantino film or a Wes Anderson film, but because of the style, it just like brings you on board with it. So like it's almost like this muted way of people talk in his movies and in his worlds is counterbalanced by the amazing like visual storytelling and
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they talk like they're in a movie. It's what he's one of those writers for sure.
Yeah.
Like the Coen brothers as well, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, I would say less so with No Country for Old Men, although that also, feels like we talked about the difference between No Country and There Will Be Blood, where it's like those are very grounded films, but like There Will Be Blood feels like a dude, and like No Country for Old Men still feels kind of like heightened, right?
yeah, absolutely. But to get back to the swing of the story, I also like you said, there's that awesome shot of him alone, sort of on the is that called the stern of the boat, and then I also love like the whole thing with Ned too, where he's like, they're smoking together, and I feel like we get a lot from his character. He's like, frankly, I shouldn't. I don't usually try grass.
Yeah, and then he pulls out his big
His
tobacco
big pipe, just starts smoking that.
Yeah, good stuff. And we bring the ring up here that he has the ring from the Zissou Society from when he was a kid. There's a lot of that, like tugging at your heartstrings a little bit with just like how long Ned has looked up to Steve, and even though he's a piece of shit, like
Yeah. And I think further setting up like sort of the whole image of Steve Zissou of himself as well,
yeah,
to have had this like junior society and shit, like
yeah,
really feels like, wow, like this guy is like pretty big character.
totally. And I do love that he points out that he like wrote back most of the time. Or does he bring up the letter here, or is that later? Maybe that's later.
I
think it is.
Yeah, I don't know if he brings up the letter right now, but
We get this.
should we
great-
I just want to say,
Yeah.
should we start a Cinema Forecast Junior Society? Is anybody out there interested in joining?
Please let us know below what size ring you are.
It's gonna be like a decoder ring, or oh no, it'll be like a little movie roulette. You like friggin' pew,
spin it, and it'll tell you what to
Legally
do with your
distinct
day.
Movie roulette.
Just like go back to sleep or eat food.
No, it'll tell you what category of movies to watch for the next month. Obviously, dude, come on.
Good stuff.
But yeah, the whole introduction of the boat, the tour.
Yes.
This is
Amazing.
a great scene.
This is one of the things that,
the
like I said,
Belafonte.
I've only seen it like 3 times maybe. But this is one of those moments, sequences that just really stuck in my head because it's just so striking. So like, because they have the entire set built out, and it's such an imaginative set, and they break down every single room in one seemingly one take. I don't think it is probably, but like certainly seems that way. And just getting to know the crew.
I don't know. Is this a one shot? There's a one shot later on.
Oh, maybe I'm mixing it up.
Where they're arguing.
Yeah.
But I think this one is like he is like.
Oh, you're right, because it is some.
It
at one
obviously
point,
it is a set. Like
it cuts down to the dolphins underneath and everything. Which
it definitely is a set
You're right,
like
you're
that
right.
that has been built of the boat. Like, and it's this really cool laterally, because that's another thing people talk a lot about with like Wes Anderson is like the camera movement is very right to left, up and down, like not off axis, very like XYZ sort of like movement, right? And it's perfect. The set is perfect for doing that. And like I said, later on we have this awesome one shot where we really get to like experience that in all its grandeur.
Yeah.
But that is one of the things about the movie I think that I have always loved is the like even when I wasn't a big fan of movies when I was like younger, right? Like it was just the wonder of like this home base. Like I love shit like that. I love like I DM'd a campaign for you guys where you eventually had like this sort of like traveling base of operations.
Yeah.
And we did one where we were pirates on like a ship and that shit like I just love and I think it's also because I was such a big toy kid when I was like younger that it's like the Belafonte feels like a toy. Like I am now wondering if I can look up and find like a model version of it to buy to like display in my house because I totally would. That would be fucking sick.
It's so cool looking. And just breaking each room down one by one, where you get the sauna was designed by someone from the Chinese space program
with the Swedish masseuse.
Yeah, the kitchen has the most expensive equipment.
Did you see? No, there's so much wine in the kitchen. There's like so many racks of wine.
What does he call the under thing you can look out from?
It's the observation bubble. It came to him in a dream. I love that
dream. It's so fun, dude. It's just such a it really just feels like you're in this other world in this movie, and I love that.
Yeah, and then the two albino dolphins. I love what he says about them too. That they're supposed to be very intelligent, but
he hasn't seen any sign of
it. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, does that? I think I was waiting for that to like come back. I don't know.
No, it definitely does.
What do they do?
There's a point where they're trying to tell them to go look in a porthole, I think, to go spy on Jane. And Jane Winslet Richardson or whatever the name of the reporter is, Kate Blanchett's character. But the guy Noah Taylor, Wolodarski, he says Noah Taylor, he's like either they can't understand us or like they aren't. I can't remember. He says something where it's like again like they
but they're confused by what we want. Again, calling them stupid. No, I remember that one. I was waiting for like a twist on that at the end where they like save the day or something. I don't think we get any kind of like no, they're just kind of the dumb dolphins.
Then there is the silly part where where Jane and Ned are like hooking up, and the dolphin happens to be swimming by, and he happens to be walking by
that door,
the porthole that's looking like it at the camera.
Yeah,
it's really fucking funny.
It is.
But again, with Wes Anderson, like that's all like the blocking is precise, and it's all to like tell a story, and you know that that's what it is. Like there's elements of it that do feel somewhat. No, nothing really feels natural. There's parts of it sometimes that do feel very real in how sort of like, because I think in movies a lot of times you get these explosive like emotional moments, and I think in reality a lot of times it can be so much more muted than that.
Yeah,
like I think that's what feels so real about some of those scenes.
Yeah,
like his conversation later on with Eleanor. It's just I'll talk about it more when we get to that point, but it's just like there are those moments where you just like, wow, that like feels more real than how you would typically see it done in like a movie.
Right, and I think that's what doing these kind of heightened worlds, or in this case muted worlds, can do, where it can take, you can tell very human stories in these worlds, and since you're doing weird things to your perception on it, you can heighten the feelings around that, right? Because if you're manipulating, like if you're making something more muted, that time you make it less muted is going to hit a lot harder, right?
Yeah.
And if you're,
I mean,
going
like
super big all the time,
maybe like the apotheosis, like when he fucking cries at the end, that is like there's such like a catharsis of like him finally like doing that, like, and I think what we're saying totally adds to that. I think a great moment of this sort of subtlety is actually the end of the tour where it's like where he says, "Who's Jacqueline?" And he says, "She was my first wife."
Yeah.
And the way he says it, you're just kind of like, ah, there's sadness there, dude. There's sadness that's been pushed away, you know?
Yeah, he's been bottling it all up. He doesn't want to face it. Very Daniel Plainview, man. Telling you.
Yeah. I mean, I can see it. I think he does like care about his crew. We definitely like see that. There's like
Yeah.
more of
no,
like
he's not as much of a monster as Daniel Plainview, but he's on that like that kind of archetype to an extent.
Yeah. I like when they go to the like oceanographic, like I don't know what it like the academy I guess is what it is, and we see the different portraits. You know, Lord Mandrake, his mentor. Love that name.
It's all so ridiculous. Like
his portrait is so funny.
Yeah.
His portrait is so fucking. And then Hennessy's is just huge.
He's just like lounging in it, right?
I don't remember.
Maybe I just always think of Jeff Goldblum doing the Jurassic Park lounge.
I love how when he like later on his boat, he does have like a full couch. He's just kind of like chilling on it.
Yeah.
Really good. And this is where he says, you know, the thing about like Hennessy grants all the grant money.
Right.
Well, you know, another Daniel Plainview thing about this guy is like, now that he's met someone who might be blood related to him, like he's like,
wow,
so like taken by that.
Wow. So this is where Paul Thomas Anderson got it.
Anderson v. Anderson.
Yeah, that's right. Wow.
V. Mr. Anderson.
The ultimate showdown.
The ultimate showdown.
Is this where he pitches?
Sunday.
Is this where he pitches Kingsley Zissou to him to change his name, or is it just Ned Zissou here?
I think no. I think he pitches. It's all in one sort of thing where it is the like, oh well, like Ned Zissou, and he's like, well, you know, I wouldn't have named you Ned, and he's like, oh well, and he like floats like the Kingsley thing. Just such a ridiculous fucking name.
I love it, and then there's people in the other room shit talking him.
Yeah, I think I also like, as someone who performs wine service, I really appreciated that when he brings the bottle over, the guy starts pouring it for Ned first, and he says, "What are you doing? I ordered the wine. He doesn't know anything about wine. Here, pour it for me." And then he like pours it. He like smells it and like takes like just throws it back and then just nods. But like it is funny because proper wine service is that when somebody orders the bottle, you're supposed to like present the bottle right, and you're supposed to pour it for whoever ordered it. That's the thing. Like when you do the little taste test at the beginning. Also, just like a little like PSA, a little bit of like knowledge. I think wine and a lot of this like industry shit can kind of get shrouded in a little bit of like unnecessary like esoterica and like mystery of like ritual. When you order a bottle of wine and they pour it for you to do that, you are checking to see if the bottle is corked. You're not actually checking to see if you're going to like it or not. Like, hopefully with your server, there's enough knowledge there that they can give you that background to do that. But it is really like, is it corked or is it not corked? Does it taste like wine? If it does, then let her rip, dude, you know? And, you know, you never know. Like, maybe, you know, you don't like how it tastes at first, but she opens up a little bit. We discover a new side of her, just like a movie on, like, a rewatch. But I just thought I'd let people know, you know, just having interactions with people. I feel like that's something some people aren't, like, super... Anyway, doesn't matter.
I learned something here today, so I'm sure there's some folks at home that did, too.
Hey, thanks, man. I love that sort of, like, play on that, and it shows his sort of, like, ego of, like, he doesn't know anything about wine.
Yeah, I just took that as, like, just like a jab at, or just, him being narcissistic, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And then we have the Italian guy saying, and I think this is, like half of it is, like, bro, come on, don't be a dick. Where he says he's wearing a gay little earring, like
he did mention something very concerning.
Right, that second thing is legitimate, where he was hitting on his 15-year-old cousin at a French discotheque or something like that. and I do feel like then you're like, oh, the movie knows that like Zissou is kind of a piece of shit. Like those are the like some of the like clues where you're like, oh yeah, no, this guy is like a little bit like questionable, you know?
Yeah, he's a big asshole.
Yeah.
I think the movie's constantly telling you that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. He's just also like Bill Murray, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's why he's perfect for this role, right? Because he's so goddamn charming that you just want to like him. But
Yeah.
he's such an asshole.
Yeah, he really fucking kills it.
Yeah, he's great. I love Bill Murray.
Really knocks it out of the park. Owen Wilson, I like as well in this movie. Just like, I feel like I love the like accent he's doing. You know, he's a pilot from Kentucky, and
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just something very like earnest about his
He's
portrayal.
extremely earnest, very straight faced. I imagine there was a lot of moments where he just was like, I would love to see the outtakes where he was just like cracking up, where he just had to like be completely straight faced while
Yeah.
ridiculous shit was happening.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think I also felt like I was reflecting on it as I was watching this movie because I think like I had lost some of like the like, oh, Steve Zissou sucks, right? Like since the last time I had seen it. But I was watching it and I was like kind of like connecting back to the memory, and I was like, no, I knew that the first time I watched this movie. Like I was just putting myself kind of back in my like 15-year-old, 16-year-old head and being like, yeah, fuck this guy. Like this guy's an asshole, you know, like these rumors about you not
He's
like
pretty
I-
unlikable, which is a very bold move for any story to be based around a very unlikable character. It's very
yeah, but
easy.
they're always fun.
I mean, we were just talking about this last week,
Yeah.
right? Like where they didn't really pull
No.
off the unlikable character.
no, they did a bad job.
Yeah, so it's really yeah, it's hard. Like you said, it's juggling a lot. It's doing a lot.
So like then like what I think is really well done is like he's all mopey and like, you know, he's like, are they talking about me? And like he walks over and then he walks back and he's just making the same sort of like expression. And it cuts to him like moping on the ground. And that's what I think kind of works for it, where it's like he is this vulnerable, like, and
Yeah.
he has trouble showing it, but he's like this like sensitive guy, you know?
Yeah, he's very. Yeah, while Daniel Plainview, not that we need to keep comparing these characters, but like Daniel Plainview like gets angry when he's vulnerable. Yeah, Steve Zissou just like gets sad and depressed.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think as someone who struggles a lot with like, I take things, you know, I catastrophize. I take things the wrong way. I like build narratives in my story that make me feel worse. I like get it, you know, and I think that's why, despite like me watching every time I watch the movie being like Steve Zissou's an asshole and he sucks, I'm like I get it, like I
Yeah.
empathize with him.
Yeah, totally. Me too. And I love that. I mean, I empathize to an extent even with Daniel Plainview, even
Oh,
though
absolutely,
he was way
for
more
sure.
of a monster. Yeah, and I
For
think
sure.
that's how you do it, right? That's how you make these characters so interesting is you give them this big emotional hook so that you relate to them, and then when they're twisted, it twists you because you were empathetic towards them. So it's challenging your own, sensibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's I like he throws the earring and Kingsley, you know, again these little moments with fun blocking, right? Where like there's this sort of like long passageway behind him, like under this arch, and like just the fun shot of like him just it all done in like a one shot, like of the two of them. He like goes around him, runs down, grabs the earring, brings it back to him, and I love the way he holds his hand out before he even comes back. This like sort of like expectation of like, yeah, I just kind of did it like as like a like show of frustration, like almost like he's aware of like how silly he is a little bit, you know, like I
Yeah.
also get that, dude. Like, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm in a bad mood. I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, well, he's kind of childish, right?
Yeah,
Where he
for
wants
sure.
he wants you to go and get it. He wants you to like cater to him being what do you call it?
Well, what I want to say right now is that you heard it here, folks, and trust me, you'll hear it several more times. Connor thinks I'm childish. I'm throwing a tantrum right now.
He's furious at me. He even pooped his diaper. No, I'm sorry. Okay, back to it. But, what's the word I'm thinking of though?
That's what I was trying to kill time for you.
I know.
And then you said I shit myself.
Yeah.
I was trying to help you.
No. What is it? Damsel? No. A diva.
Yeah,
He's a
he's a bit of a diva for sure.
Yes, a diva. Yeah.
He's definitely a diva. He is in what we at Cinema Forecast would call the double D category. He's definitely a diva.
Definitely a diva.
Or would we call it the dad category?
Yeah, he's
Let's call it the definitely a diva category.
okay. He's definitely a diva.
Defo a diva.
Deaf diva.
Def div.
He's a deaf diva.
Def div.
Yeah. They go to the Zissou compound, which again is just fucking hilarious to me.
Which is on Peixespada Island, which means swordfish in in Portuguese.
Nice.
I love that that's where their base is.
I love that too. I don't even know why something like having the Zissou compound is hilarious to me, but it just just that they have an island and they have a compound. Like something
These
about this.
people live there. Like all his employees
it's
live
just
with
so
him.
ridiculous.
They're kind of like they're like a commune in a way.
Yeah,
like a floating commune.
Yeah, and I don't know if we've mentioned the interns yet. Have they showed up? Because every time we see them for the majority of the movie, they're just carrying something super heavy.
Yeah, they're just
and then he asks them to get him a
ridiculously heavy
drink.
shit. Yeah. Yeah, that is great. I love that. Yeah, he asked them for a Campari at some point, which is a tie-in to like our first episode, right?
Yeah.
Campari. I was actually I wanted to bring a couple red beanies and a bottle of Campari and pull it out at the beginning of the episode and just like surprise Connor, but then I got busy doing other stuff and I got hungry, so instead we went and got sushi beforehand.
It was very good.
It was good. It was a nice little bonding experience.
Yeah, we had a good time. Talked about the show. Talked about the future.
Oh yeah, dude, big things coming.
Oh yeah.
But I wanted to say before they go to the compound, he says, "Let's go to my island."
Yeah, just casually. Yeah. And then Eleanor, when they come up, rip Marmalade. Your cat's dead. She was bitten by a rattlesnake in the throat.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing I'm saying about Wes Anderson. It's like, oh wow, that's so funny. But like, this is real in that world.
I'm starting to have a little beef, dude, because a cat gets thrown out a window in Grand Budapest Hotel. Now a cat gets freaking chomped in this movie, not on screen, but it's still part of the canon. And a dog gets hit. Enough. Wes.
Dog also gets hit off camera.
Yeah. But like the action takes place on camera.
Yes, but it's obvious the dog doesn't actually get hit,
you know?
No, from a filmmaking.
No, I just mean
from a filmmaking.
He keeps writing animals getting hit, like hurt into his stories.
Well, it's a good way to show to tell story. You know, he made a whole movie about dogs.
That's true. And cats, right?
Oh, he did
Cat
Fantastic
Island.
Mr. Fox. It's called the Isle of Dogs. He also did Fantastic
Shit,
Mr. Fox.
I watched that one on a plane and I liked it a lot. For some reason, it's cats in my head. I don't know. Go figure.
The one with Bryan Cranston. You love Bryan Cranston.
Oh yeah, I do. We learn here that Eleanor's family bought the
parents,
island.
yeah.
They've kind of been funding a lot of this. There's a great comedic shot where Steve is just like really depressed and feeding a whale.
Yeah, just super casually feeding a whale.
It's just like he looks so sad.
I definitely was noting a lot about the colors at this point. I love the faded sort of palette. Wes Anderson does this a lot. Like the color is just so perfectly done. This is of course 35 millimeter, and I would be really curious about more of the specifics. I'm not so deep that I know a lot about like the different like processing techniques or like what different film stocks look like, but there is this very cool like color to it. It like it feels very sort of dusty and faded, but like also like all the reds are so vibrant, but a lot of like the like browns and like drab sort of like
like
colors like all sort of like blend a little bit.
It kind of looks like a less so version of what their documentary films look like, right? Like a little more like heightened, like, or you said like kind of like dusty. Like it looks like old film to an extent.
It's like the colors are a lot of the colors are sort of like muted in this way.
Right.
But again, I feel like red really pops throughout this movie. Like it which helps with like the the characters, right? Because they do really like the tops of their heads really all sort of like pop in this way that draws your eyes towards their faces.
Totally. We get the rubber tide.
Very cool.
Yeah, this is awesome. I love just like that they're in their pajamas here on the beach. It's just like a really funny flat scene of of him like asking like, so what makes them glow like that? He's like, oh, that's some really good ad libbing. Get in here, and like,
And then
Klaus gets all mad, and then
then we have the reporter shows up and like
and she corrects them.
Yeah, they're
which is
not
fun.
electric jellyfish, and then he like puts his foot on it and he's like, oh, she's right. They're Viet Cong man of wars.
Yeah, I didn't even write that down. It's like, what? Excuse me? What is
Yeah,
that?
what a fucking insane name for a fucking jellyfish.
That's wild. Oh yeah, he invites Ned into the crew before she arrives as well.
Yeah, he says that we'll get you your red cap and Speedo.
And the first thing he says to her is, "You look pregnant."
Yeah.
I am pregnant, she says.
And then we find out, no one ended up going to go pick her up.
Apparently Klaus was supposed to fix the plane too. I just realized this.
The whirlybird. He services it supposedly every 6 months.
He keeps kind of dropping the ball.
Yeah, I mean, okay, what I love about this scene as well is that we get the whole thing where like Ned is like, well, I don't know anything about this line of work, and Klaus even says he's like, we're not gonna have any of the audio, like he's a horrible boom guy, which is true because he's asking the question and the boom is way off there, and like you wouldn't have been able to pick up good audio off of him, even though it was a good ad lib, I would agree. But then he says, right, like, you have Steve saying, well, Wolodarski was a substitute teacher, even though he's supposed to be their science expert, right? And then he says something about like Klaus. He's like, we're really just like a band of misfits. And he's kind of like undermining the thing we set up in the beginning where it's like, all these people are experts in their field. And it's like, I mean, they've been doing it long enough that obviously they do have some expertise, but like this scene kind of is like,
yeah, they do kind of wing it a lot throughout the movie.
For sure.
Right?
Absolutely. I mean. Absolutely. They all seem to know a lot about filmmaking, which I love, I love all the talk of it too when they like, because they're like running like their dailies or whatever. And he's like, push it like 1.5 stops. That shit is fucking.
I wish I wrote it down every time it happened too, but it's so funny the running gimmick of the lights going out on the Belafonte.
Oh yeah, they're like
non-stop, and then sometimes they just hit the wall.
This thing is obviously just like
on.
wired so shittily.
Yeah, I think that's such a good little.
It's a great
setup.
bit. It's a fun bit.
We got Jane meeting them on the beach.
We get the not this one Klaus.
Yeah,
as well
when he's bringing her back in.
Yeah.
He's like claiming her, kind of very like weird. His whole relationship with her in this movie is so uncomfortable.
Very strange. Yes. There's also the part we didn't really mention, but at the like whole award ceremony earlier, there's this woman who like approaches Steve Zissou and he like tries to introduce her to Eleanor, and she's like, "Are we really gonna do this here?" So we kind of see that like it seems like implied infidelity, right? So like, and with the like not like not this one.
He has kind of a Jack Sparrow moment where it's like but he has two ex-lovers right next to each other, and they both kind of like turn away from like he's scorned by both of them. Yeah.
I mean, it's different because it is his wife and just like some woman he probably cheated on his wife with,
Yeah.
But it was still fun. Like we kind of see that he is definitely a bit of a friggin', a ruffian, bit of a scoundrel, and then like so I think that sort of reinforces the whole like not this one, sort of thing. Like, he's a bit of a, I mean, I think he'd like to think of himself as a bit of a playboy, but seems like not really.
He's lost his game. I picture that he used to have a lot of game, and he's lost his game.
Yeah, for sure.
In his prime, he was a different beast. This is the scene where I think he tells Eleanor,
Ned believes in him, and that's why he needs to have him on the crew.
And then she's like, "Why?" And he says, "Because he looks up to me." And it's like,
does he say he looks up to me, or does he say because he believes in me?
I wrote because he looks up to me, but
word for sure.
That's what I don't know.
I mean, I think they're not like. I think it's interesting to know what the specific wording is, but again, like the sentiment is definitely there, right? And I think this goes along with what we were saying about like why it would have been nicer to have a little bit more of that Esteban, right? To like really feel this hole in the crew and
Yeah.
see how Ned is maybe kind of stepping into it, right? Because like I said, it seems like maybe what Esteban had is like a steady, like older, like steady seasoned dude with like a steady hand to be like, hey bud, you know what you're doing, like don't worry. I mean,
Totally.
it's like I feel it's like almost like if well, like when the mics go off sometimes, right? Especially towards the beginning, like, hey, what'd you think about that? Did you think I was like too awkward here, or like
Yeah,
it?
someone that believes in him.
Yeah.
You're
For
so
the
right.
record, I've never asked that question before. I'm very sure of myself. I am I'm a steady narcissist, completely
High
unwavering.
functioning
I
narcissist.
believe so much in my ability to entertain.
It's why we're here.
Well, I like we were saying, it is cool to see this sort of vulnerability from him, right? Then him sort of like acknowledging that like Ned is giving him this little spark that he was missing.
Like I said, I didn't really think about the Esteban stuff while watching the film, but it kind of like occurred to me afterwards. And then like looking through my notes again, it's just like, yeah. And now that we're talking about it more and more, I'm like, yeah, that does feel like kind of a glaring omission in some ways to me, because he is kind of the ghost of the story, the heart of
Esteban is like a plot point,
yeah,
right? Like he's a motivation. He's not felt as like a full character.
yeah, and it works, like it still works, because I do think there's enough of the like suggestion of what is missing, but it's just lacking, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I love that that we have the scene of Ned basically getting all of his shifts covered, you know? And we also hear down the hallway, Winslet is reading all of these sort of stories
Yeah.
to her
Pretty
baby.
cute scene. Yeah.
And yeah, we start to see them like developing this little relationship together, and he wants to like listen. And I love how she's like, this is also feels very sort of Wes Anderson. Do you want me to catch you up on the story? He's like, no, I think I'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's one of those moments where the awkward, muted vibe of Wes Anderson really fits like almost what matches realism to an extent.
For
So
sure.
just very awkward, but
For
like
sure.
they do want to hang out, and it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, come in,
Yeah,
sure.
it feels like a super like contrived scenario that she's reading so loudly. Like obviously everyone can hear her,
Right.
but then the parts where they like the way they kind of like they're back and forth and they're like sort of like unease but excitement, that feels super real for
yeah,
sure.
totally.
I love the Zissou fucking Adidas. You know, I'm always on product placement, but I love that he had a pair of Adidas, and like you see several people wearing those throughout the movie. It's fucking great. We have a couple other really great product placements as well throughout the movie that I'll shout out. But that was I also shouted out the Kodak camera earlier, and I think this was filmed on Kodak film as well. So you know, goes hand in hand in a way.
Heck yeah. We have the interview.
So what
here.
happened in your opinion?
Yeah, she's so brutal. Yeah, what happened in your opinion? What went wrong, basically? Well, the second one was I can't forget. I didn't write.
Will
all the
this be your
questions.
last voyage?
Oh
She asked,
yeah, yeah. It's just like, oh damn, okay.
There's just like an orca in the background the whole time as they're talking as well.
Yeah, it's great.
It's really great. And she says, I'm sure you'll make a terrific father.
Oh yeah, well, so because he's right. He says you're taking something out on me, and she bursts into tears and he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like upset you. I was just like, making jokes, and just like, I'm sure you'll be a great father.
He also fucking points a gun at her.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
in the same scene.
And she's like, how dare you?
Yeah. I do like that he's like, can we maybe like start with some easy ones? Favorite color blue, favorite food sardines.
Yeah, I think he says, does this look real to you?
Yeah, he does say that, yeah.
Oh my god, man.
But I love that his favorite color is blue and his favorite food is sardines. Because, I mean, this is Aquatic movie month, and this is an aquatic guy.
Yeah. No,
And
I think that's why we chose this for the last one. It's like, it's just something
It's
about
literally
it
called The Life
screams.
Aquatic.
Yeah.
It's in the title right there.
Yep. Absolutely. Oh, and then yeah, I just have a
Ned's
great
taking out the trash.
yes, the great little interaction with Klaus.
And he fucking slaps him. It's so fucking
and
ridiculous.
He's like, I think he asked him, "Are you really his son?" And he says, "I don't know." And he's like, "You traveled a long way, for I don't know, Sonny."
Yeah.
He keeps calling him Sonny. This is a great little like dynamic relationship they have throughout the
The
film.
way it evolves is fun. Yeah.
Because they're both trying to get even with each other to an extent, and then it like it has a really nice catharsis.
Yeah, he says to him, "Don't ever touch me again." He's like, "Not if I see you first."
And I thought Owen Wilson did an amazing job in this scene where it looked like he was tearing up a little bit after getting hit. Like he looked like he was genuinely like have you ever been so angry that you're like getting emotional? And like I thought he like his voice breaks a little bit too. He's like, "If you ever touch me again," like I thought it was a very realistic performance for this very stoic character.
Yeah, I mean it's like shocking, like just like kind of out of nowhere the way he fucking smacks him, dude. I would be incensed, and I think that's really the emotion that we see on his face. Is like he looks like so caught off guard, and
Yeah.
like yeah, just like what the fuck, dude? What's your fucking problem, man?
Yeah.
But yeah, really great. I mean, dude, we keep saying it. Great performances all around.
Yeah,
here, you
Willem
know?
Dafoe, man. I just like I don't really think I've realized until this like I always liked Willem Dafoe, but like especially doing this podcast, he was great in Nosferatu. He's been doing all the Robert Eggers movies. I really like Willem Dafoe, man. He's awesome.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
fucking
great.
awesome.
He's a great actor. Like really, like someone who, when you watch him, that's like you're like acting is a craft, you know.
Yeah,
And this
well,
is
he
a
blends in so much, right? Like like he surprised me when he showed up in this movie because I was like, oh yeah, Willem Dafoe, of course.
oh, I knew he was in it. I feel like I actually I almost feel like he doesn't blend in. He stands out, and that's why he's like such a great actor.
Yeah,
He's like such an interesting character. Even Klaus is very captivating because you're like, who is this guy? Like, what's his deal?
he's a bit of a wild card, a bit eccentric. Yeah,
I mean, they all are. I think
yeah,
they're a collection of misfits, you know.
totally.
And I love that about them, and that's one of the things I love about the Belafonte and this setup for like a story, right? Like
Totally.
it's like the crew of like the ship in the Matrix, you know, or the crew that we get in Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, I guess we get a little bit of it with like the whole interaction between Enola and
The Mariner
and the Mariner
in Waterworld.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. You know, we have a home base, we have a home crew. Like you can picture like a several season TV show about these people and their like adventures. You know.
Totally. Yeah. Well, yeah. It sets up. Well, what I was gonna say earlier is that it does a trope I really love, which is the burnt out, like someone who was great. They're like they were known as like a great person. Just like someone who really excelled, was the top of their game, but you pick up the story when they're washed out.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's a really interesting.
He's a
place.
washed ship captain. He's like his greatest moments are behind him now. You know.
Yeah. And I think that's a powerful place to pick up a story, and I like what they're doing. I just like that everything feels like this established world of, oh yeah, they've been on like 100 adventures.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we have Steve and Ned talking to each other. Steve really wants to make sure that Ned doesn't reveal too much to Jane, because now that he feels like, oh, this isn't just gonna be a puff piece. She's gonna be looking for like, she's gonna be sniffing out blood in the water, you know.
And probably the most grating thing about Steve's character in this movie is how he keeps trying to come between Jane and Ned, and how he's
I thought you were gonna say his use of homophobic slurs.
Well, that's up there.
Well, because he keeps referring to her
as a bull dyke.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And just the nastiness of him putting his like lust for her, which is like a passing thing, in front of this new relationship with his son repeatedly throughout the movie is just so upsetting.
But we also see like that this upsets Ned as well, right? Like the way he's talking about Jane, and that's when he says like something about like how 5 years ago, like how he first heard about Ned like 5 years ago, and like, and Ned is like, why didn't you ever contact
Yeah.
me? And he says, because I always hated fathers and I never wanted to be one.
Yeah.
Which is so strange because it really seems like he really does, like, so badly, right? And I guess that's what he
Yeah.
was looking for by being this sort of like figurehead or sort of like not like folk hero, but this role model, right? Like he's got this junior society. He wants to be somebody that people want to model themselves after, right?
Yeah. Well, so there is a later reveal that I'm just thinking about now, right? Which is that he's sterile.
Yeah. I mean, I
And
think
I
ultimately
wonder-
Ned is not his actual
Yeah.
son. Ned isn't really his son.
And I'm
Ned
wondering
is
if-
spiritually, right, like
Yes.
his son.
Absolutely. I'm wondering if, because I think you're right, and I hadn't really thought about it that way in terms of his dichotomy of obviously wanting to be a father while saying something like "I hate fathers. I never wanted to be one," because that does track with this type of personality, right? He's too focused on his career for all the
Oh,
responsibilities.
to
He
me,
can't-
it obviously meant that his father was horrible to him. Like that's what I got from it immediately, was like that he came from perhaps a broken home or from an abusive father or a neglectful father, right? And that's why he didn't want to continue the cycle of abuse in a way.
Yeah. I was thinking about that as well, but I was also thinking another read is that he wanted to be a father but couldn't have a child, and so this is kind of a like how he frames it for himself, because his ego doesn't want to be like I shoot blanks. He doesn't want to believe that he can't have
Yeah, for
kids.
sure. I think there's a lot of those things at play. I mean, we hear with in this scene that we'll talk about more when we get to with Eleanor about, like, he says we should have just had like a kid way back then, and there's this whole
Yeah.
back and forth about like whether it's a cop out and stuff, and I think that that's very telling and like sheds a lot of light on what we're talking about right now.
Totally. Absolutely. We have Jane calling Ross,
Yes.
who is the baby daddy. And
Yes, who we will find out later is married.
Right.
Not to her, as she says.
Yes, complicated relationship, to be sure. Yeah, and I guess part of the tell of that is she says, "I don't even know why I'm still pregnant," which is really your first. Until then, you don't really know that the father isn't around. I don't think, right?
Yeah, I think that's the first clue that it's like she's doing this on her own. It seems like, in a way.
The next note I have is script girl is still nude.
Not nude, just topless.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And then yeah, they have the scene between
I did want to say,
Yes,
I
go
have my note is Anne Marie being topless in the movie is very quirky in 2004, questionable in 2025, but again, I feel like
it's very random for sure.
quirky, like I
Yeah.
said, but then I feel like it kind of wins me back over with the character and
Yeah.
her and us seeing that she really is someone who can think for herself and like acts against what the main character is suggesting, which ends up being, to their detriment.
Yeah, I do think it kind of adds to the whole like most interesting man in the world vibe, where
Yeah,
he just has
for
a
sure.
topless lady around.
Yeah,
all the
there's
time.
like he's just got the script girl and she hangs out and she's just like, a bit of an exhibitionist,
a free spirit.
And like, oh man, who wouldn't want to be on the crew where there's like, a lady with her boobies out all the time?
It's a fair question. We're asking you folks at home. Tell us in the comments below. I love every time Steve calls his agent on the phone, all their conversations. I love the agent. I keep forgetting his name. He's so funny.
Yeah, played by Michael Gambon. His name is Osieri.
Osieri. And this is where we find out that Ned just inherited $275,000.
Yeah, we hear Larry Amin, the head of Saudi film, has passed on the movie. So they're in desperate need of funding.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
I do love the, like, Ned pops on the phone and he's like, hey, I don't know, like, maybe like 275,000, would that help? And I
what
love
kind
how,
of expression is the lad wearing on his
what
face?
does that- yeah. Which is so again, these guys are kind of like a bit of like scoundrels, right? Like
Yeah.
they're like, he's almost like, can I take this guy for a ride? Like, is
I really think he thinks he's pulling his chain, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Like, is he like trying to like make fun of me? But I
Yeah.
also had like, this sort of like, I don't know, there's something about the slickness with which he like communicates, like, but
Yeah,
then
I
we
love the agent as just this background character that is just kind of like has a big influence, but he's very removed from the story.
he's the producer. That's
the producer,
That's what he
okay.
is. Yeah, he's
Gotcha.
And then I love that we now have this like tie to it where he is now like tied to the movie financially, right?
Right.
And it's also just so fucking wild. He's just like, yeah, let's just go for it. But there's an excitement to it, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody like putting that much money into a venture where you're like, let's fucking go,
Well,
dude.
this is like a childhood dream to him too, because like as
Yeah.
we learned, he was worshipped.
Yeah,
Steve
I mean,
Zissou,
he thinks this guy is his dad. He grew up without a father. Like it's very
and
like
your dad is like an action hero.
yeah. I mean, not just an action hero. He's like an intellectual.
Yeah.
Like that's the one of. I mean, he isn't really, but he puts on those airs, right?
Yeah.
That's one of those cool things about like the explorer type. It's not just like that they're rough and rugged. It's that they're rough and rugged in the cause of like helping to educate the world and further our
expand the
knowledge
mind. Yeah, exactly.
of like how things work. And the ocean, dude, which is like this such an awesome metaphor for what we don't know about the world, right?
Yeah.
Like, and just somebody who's like seeking to pull away like some of that shroud, right?
Totally.
It's so fucking compelling. I fucking love it. It's like my favorite fucking action hero type is like an Indiana Jones or like this sort of like explorer, this sort of intellectual bent on like the fucking on the protagonist.
Right. Just figuring out what is the deep knowledge of this world. Yeah.
Cuz it feels like such a good cause to like fucking like to commit yourself to like.
And I think it really puts you in a state of wonder because like, at this point in our lives we've explored so much of the world, but the ocean, like we basically have an idea of how big it is, like how deep every part is, right? But like it's still so much unseen.
I believe single digit percentage still of the ocean has been explored.
That's so wild. Yeah, so crazy to think about. So yeah, just in terms of just like really capturing your imagination and making you wonder what's out there, right? Like so much when we say what's out there, usually we're talking about space, but like the ocean can still do that too. It is like the final frontier in a lot of ways on Earth.
Yeah. So get at it, James Cameron. Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Figure it out. We do
helicopter?
Yeah, exactly.
Helicopter is clanky, is what I wrote.
It's a whirlybird.
It's a whirlybird, yes.
It's a whirlybird.
It's a whirlybird.
Klaus supposedly services it every 6 months, though.
Yep. That's all I have before you're a Bond stooge. I'm also a human being.
Yeah, very cute. And then he apologizes to him.
I love that. It's another one of those moments where it feels like it's almost like the movie being self-aware that they're in a movie where he's like, you're just being mean, dude. Like, can you just be a person? He's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, it's great. I really like that as well. I also like that, like, it is like, okay, the money's gone through, but there are conditions, right? And then the way that Steve Zissou responds where he's like, I'm going to fight it, but I'll let it lie. Where it's like, wow, that's so funny where he needs to save face by framing it that, like, I fought this, but I'll let it go, right? Like, because it's like, I'm going to fight it.
Yeah, but he's not actually fighting. Yeah, he just
doesn't really fight it.
Put it on the record, yeah.
And then, of course, he says, what about my dynamite? The dynamite just keeps coming up as
I love it.
It's a necessary part of oceanography, and exploring the oceans. You need that dynamite.
Oh, this movie rocks.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I also love the Bond stooge. I mean, he's there at the end of the movie.
Dude,
again,
I love this character, dude.
Yeah, Bill's great. Dude.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And there's a scene later on where like Hennessy's like, I need you to sign this for me to tell you, and he's like, I need my Bond company stooge, and it's like, but he was kidnapped, right? And there's like these logical like sort of like back and forth that characters do in Wes Anderson movies, and like it's just like, his
He's part of the-
absence is felt.
He's part of the crew,
He's
man.
part of the crew,
We
man.
need
I
Bill.
love how he like brings him up again, right? It's like, fuck yeah. But
I mean, Bill's a badass, as we'll find out.
Bill is a cultured man for sure. Bill is a cultured man.
Little to no fear I see from Bill either. An extremely high stress situation.
I mean, I feel a lot of them kind of like have that sort of vibe.
Yeah, that's
right?
part of the muted tone for sure.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
But Bill especially.
And then we get a cool montage of like, let's set out on this amazing
how
adventure.
I feel about montages, Alfredo.
I've heard you say you don't like them.
That's incorrect.
You're always like, montage? Ew, I hate a montage.
No, I just wrote so fun, the long hallway shots where they're just showing. I'm such a like, when you have to have these long pieces of choreography where everyone's doing the right thing at the right time, it's just always so like cinematically pleasing.
Yeah, it's cool. A lot of a lot of different shots of things happening all over the like boat and stuff,
They're training. Ned brings Jane a shell.
Yeah, for sure. I love all the film shit that's on the boat. Like, I really love the editing bay. They've got the little recording booth for doing like voiceover and ADR.
Yeah.
I love the like, we get this one where like they're just these like tiny little fuck off things where like Vikram is like, watch out, and then like Renzo the editor is like, okay, yeah, that was a little fast. Stuff like that.
Yeah, just
the minutia of that. They're like,
it's one of those scenes again where I was saying I just wanted to pause and just like, or just like not stop taking notes, just soak it all in, because it's just like giving you so much juicy immersion.
I love that all the different things. The interns getting warmed up. There's a Steve Zissou pinball machine. Everyone's running down the beach except for Steve Zissou who's riding a bike.
Than I do. I love that. Yeah, and then when Jane comes up and Ned brings her the shell, again, just so obnoxious. Steve drives his bike like right into Ned's foot to break them up. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, he's pissed off. He does not like this.
He's the worst.
He called quote unquote dibs.
He did call dibs.
Yeah, and then
Ned almost drowns.
Yes, it's so fucking funny the way that it's edited as well. It's just like he falls back and it's like cut to him like on the fucking ground like kneading mouth to mouth. And then showing them all sort of like hanging out. I love this. Like we have this sort of like day-to-day sort of quotidian vibe that, again, like I said, it's cozy, right? Like, maybe I'll even watch it again later tonight just to like, watch it like laying down, with a little blanket.
Yeah.
Maybe have like a little bit of like Red Baron pizza.
Right.
That's not a sponsorship, but we're open to it. A little Red Baron pizza sitting on my tummy.
Yeah.
And just take a little bite.
Yeah.
And, just like I'm just living in that, playing foosball with your buddies, watching listening to old episodes of, maybe after this, you and me lay out here, put a little Red Baron on our tum-tums, pull up some old episodes of Cinema Forecast, and just kind of reminisce.
It is so cozy. It like, yeah, I don't know why my mind keeps going back to like a little snow globe, where it just feels like just this contained little world.
A Belafonte snow globe would be great too.
Oh, that'd be sick. Damn, we should talk licensing deals with these guys. We have some ideas.
Yeah, I did also write down, which I've mentioned already. I love this crew. They all seem to know how to have a good time.
Yeah, they're all great. They're all super fun. The only grouch is really Steve.
I mean
Klaus. Klaus is a grouch. Yeah, he's the
everyone else is
the
so
teacher's
laid back.
pet.
It does feel like they're sort of like, if you look, I think it's like Hennessy is like the like straight lace sort of like research vessel, runs the straight lace sort of research vessel, and they really are like the stoner like sort of like aquatic society. Like
they feel like they were thriving in like the peak hippie era. But we also don't know. Like you said, this could be in the 70s.
Feels very 70s.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just kind of have like this sort of like outcast, again, misfits, sort of like, very, again, like I'm saying with like, I mean, we see Steve lighten up a lot, but they, like I said, like we said, they're all, the rest of the crew, very sort of chill and like, just feels like a very like, just relaxed vibe,
Playing guitar.
Playing guitar,
jamming.
dude, chilling.
Yeah.
Man.
Love it. I also love that when Ned almost drowns, and you get a moment of like what feels like genuine concern from Steve as he's pulling him out of the water, and then
How you shooting this, Vikram?
he's asking how they're shooting it wide open, and
Yeah.
he like explains to him like, no, we're getting the shot on this way, and he's
He
like,
said,
okay,
I think he said between 5 and 6. Talking about f-stops, baby.
love it, yeah, but it just like that is
Yeah.
his arc, that's
also
his
has-
character arc
He has
is
the light meter on there the whole time. I mean, Ned will say at some point, he's like, I'm just a character in your movie.
yeah. I mean, and that is like that's really his flaw. That's his whole hero's journey here is realizing that he was looking at things backwards.
Yeah, like he can't like just show this like sort of like he wants to do this like perfected version of himself
Yeah.
edited into the movies, but it's like you got to be a good
Yeah.
guy, and then it'll be even easier to show how like you're a good guy, you know?
Totally. That and just valuing the film more than the actual experience.
Yeah, exactly, yes. Like if you live this adventure, like like
Then you can find
it'll
everything
be
you're
easy
missing.
to convey it, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And that's what they used to do. And then he's just gotten so lost in the tedium of like churning out content that he
Yeah.
like doesn't enjoy the process of actually doing it anymore.
They are just big content creators. Just everything's got to be on film. Like,
Yeah, no, I fuck it. I love it. I think it's great.
me too. We get some old film here where they're swimming in the ice water.
Yeah.
And then they go to save some extinct
A wild snow mongoose.
wild snow mongooses that they thought were extinct.
And I love how like Klaus goes, "That's what it used to be like."
Yeah. I just wrote the good times next to it. Very much feels like that you seen what the prime was. I didn't like strike me as being fake, like which I love. Like that's why the genuine like it feels like this hero from some cartoon show or something. Where
Yeah,
it's just
the way
like,
they're diving into like the ice water, just like, well, let's make the best with like a shitty time, right?
yeah, it's like is he and like Steve seems so concerned with the wild mongoose's health and everything. It's just like it feels more like there's a lot more heart to it.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I did love how there's like birds and cats and dogs like everywhere
Yeah.
on like the compound, and then and we do have Steve continuing to be very like mopey, and Eleanor like letting him know that she doesn't want him.
I
to,
love
like,
this
go,
from
you know?
Eleanor because she's like, she warns him not to go. She says it's a bad idea, and then when he says no, she puts the cigar out on the bed and just fucking leaves.
Yeah,
Like what a fucking boss move.
yeah, and he says, "Who's going to tell us the Latin names of everything?"
Yeah.
And and she's leaving. We see the sugar crabs on
the little
Yeah.
clay animation. Yeah, the crab battle.
And she says it's mating season. He's like, "Oh, is that mating?" And then like cuts off the other ones. And you're like, it's pretty funny too, based on like what's going on between them.
Yeah,
and then,
really good.
And then she says goodbye, Steve, and he says back to her,
Mhm.
"Don't say that. It's too painful."
Yeah.
He's like, "What do you want me to say? Say bon voyage, right?"
Yeah.
And this is a part where I really teared up a lot. This isn't something I talk about a lot or I've talked about on this podcast, but I went through a divorce, and it really like, and me and my ex, we're still on like good terms and stuff, and we talk every once in a while, but like there was so much about this relationship that like really resonated with that, where there's like this sort of like, yeah, in that moment, it just took me back to like, learning to say goodbye to that relationship, to that chapter of my life. And it was like, I felt very much in like Steve's shoes at that moment,
Yeah.
and like rudderless, right? Like, cause
Totally.
that's what sort of happens to the crew, right? And we see that throughout the movie, that like until Eleanor comes back, there is like this lack of like focus, right? Everything
and when
is
she
very
comes back,
jumbled.
it's just everything comes together.
Boom! It just clicks into place.
Yeah, no, I love that. And and I think I haven't been through divorce, but I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling, especially with the way.
No, only divorces.
Like,
no, of course, loss of any sort,
but,
really.
there's something, and I don't know if this speaks to your situation at all, but like with Steve, there is this sense of like I've definitely been in a relationship before where I kind of took it for granted to an extent, and then when it kind of is severed, you're like, oh wait, no, don't go, don't say goodbye. And I think that speaks to me a lot.
I
Personally.
think like most people, the case is that we are almost always like taking things
For
for granted.
granted,
It's
absolutely, yeah.
like I think the goal is always to lessen how much by being grateful and like, present in like those moments, but I think it's impossible to like completely close the gap. I mean, that's
Totally.
really like living,
I think that's
on
just
on another level, right?
yeah,
But yeah, you're always going to look back and see things that you missed when you were there, right?
totally.
And like there will be those pangs, right?
Which is a lot of what this movie's about, I think.
For sure, because it is like saying goodbye to like a version of himself.
Or just
You
taking
know.
things for granted in general, like we were talking about with
Yeah.
his whole business, his whole
Yeah.
life, where
Absolutely.
he's like doing all these amazing things. He's feeding a whale, and while like just big old frown. He has all this cool stuff, all these adventures,
Yeah,
all
for
these
sure. For
memories,
sure.
all these people that look up to him.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he's feeling like the weight of time, like the passage of time as well. Like feels like a thing like because I think he is the age he is in this movie for like such a specific reason, right? Like he's in like his 50s
Yeah.
and he says at one point like my last voyage, like like I could keep doing this for a while, and then like later on he is like talking about like how this is like the end, right? Like and as we see at the end, it doesn't seem like it is, which I love. I love
Yeah.
just picturing him. I mean, he says he wants to go out in he doesn't say a blaze of glory. He says
Something along those lines.
a flashy
Yeah.
blaze or something. Like that. I can't remember, but
And I also wanted to point out the line here because I don't know if we've touched on this yet. Eleanor says to him before she goes, "I can't believe you took that boy's money,"
yeah,
which
yeah,
I
for
do
sure.
think is a pretty like damning thing, and I can see how he would like it. That I like it a lot because I could see how he would twist it in his own head. Where he's like, no, he wants this too, and he does. It is his own agency too. So it's like this very complicated situation, but it's like if you actually see this boy as a son, like don't take his money,
Yeah,
don't
for
take
sure.
all of his inheritance, like.
Yeah, I agree. And I like it from Eleanor because we're really seeing that she does seem to have a lot of character, right? Like she is like a person who has a point of view.
Yeah, one of my favorite
movie.
characters, even though she's just like this small part of it.
Yeah, I mean, she feels like when she shows up, she like locks into place so much that she feels like a big part of it.
Yeah,
for me.
and I think just like you were saying, I'm a big sucker for people that are extremely hard to read but have a heart of gold. Like,
Yeah,
I think I like that trope a lot.
I just think Angelica Houston is maybe the best, my favorite performance of everyone actually in this movie.
Yeah.
She's like so good. She does the Wes Anderson thing the best.
Yeah, it's hard for me to
She
say.
just like
'cause,
takes it to that next level for me.
I wasn't really thinking about my favorite while watching this, but it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. They're all really good.
Yeah, I would say that's my number one.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick.
I think maybe Bill Murray sits right around second, but yeah, I think she's my favorite.
Hell yeah. I wanted to take every note of this, but I didn't get them all just because again there's so much happening. I was very immersed in the story. But day one, this is another very specific thing I love in movies, but just like or just in stories, games, whatever, is tracking of days.
Yeah.
Where are we in
We
the
love that.
timeline?
We love a count. We love an idea of how much time passes.
Yeah.
Because it's like this story goes over the course of like a month,
yeah.
like this whole thing at sea. And I love how it's easy to track that because like we do have these sort of things. I also have a note at one point that I don't know if you've noticed this, but Wes Anderson only really uses one font for like all his movies.
Yeah, no, I can see that now. Yeah, I
it's
didn't think
always
about
that
it.
one font.
That's so funny. Yeah, I can totally see that.
It is cool too. It's just like makes it easy for him. He's like, I don't have to spend too much time thinking about this. I'm just like, cue up the Wes Anderson font.
Yeah, and this is I think when they head out to the underwater laboratory.
Yeah, I mean we have we have them like watching some of their like footage for the part 2 of the jaguar shark, and they introduce Ned as like a new crew member.
And something about a relationship subplot.
Yeah, see, that's what he does say. Yeah, he says, and Renzo doesn't really seem sold on it though. He's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But But yeah, then they're basically I love what they say about their scanning monitor, that the power tubes have seized up and blown a gasket, which I actually thought through it, and I was like, they seized up and blew a gasket, and I was like, the power tubes, and like I was just like, I don't know if that fully makes sense.
I can see what that. I didn't think
And
about
I
it at all.
kind of
but
love that
totally.
they just kind of like hand wave
Say
the like
shit,
jargon that they use,
Yeah.
and you're just like, yeah,
It
for
doesn't
sure.
need to make sense at all.
No,
yeah.
it's definitely a long time because they're using power tubes, you know, like.
Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah,
But I also the whole
could just be like very vintage equipment. too.
yeah could also be for sure. Love the love that they're like, this is broken, so we're just gonna go to the like underwater lab and like just like use their stuff. And it is kind of funny because like when it's presented to you, like he's gonna like ask Hennessy for help, and I love how it's like very quickly we'll see.
Fucking rob him. That's one of my funniest bits in the movie.
I
think.
love it so much.
It's so funny.
And then we have them talking again, like on an interview thing, and she
Is
says,
this when they go up in the hot air balloon? or
well, she
before?
says the quote to him, Zissou has an almost magical connection to the sea, and like she's like, do you know who said that? And like it was Lord Mandrake, his mentor.
Right.
And this is the scene where we see Matthew Gray Gubler walking by holding something really heavy,
and
he says, hey intern, get me a Campari, and he goes, on the rocks. And then he doesn't answer, and he just goes, you want to go up in my balloon? I love how he does that multiple, like, want to go to my, let's go to my island, want to go up in my balloon, and he like
He just
very frames it. Like one of the things that I think is interesting is those specific choices for like linguistically for the use of the possessive, right? Because like, do you want to go up in the balloon? Like, let's go back to the island.
Yeah.
Is a way that a lot of people would normally speak.
Yeah.
And in Spanish, it happens a lot. And I would comment on it. And I've heard it in like English as well. But like, people saying, like, for example, in Spanish, like siblings, one sibling to the other one, like would be like, my mom said this. And it's like, you guys have the same mom. Why don't you just say, mom said this, right? And I've heard people do it in English as well, and it's like, it says so much about someone and their relationship to objects or other people. I feel like, and it really works for.
Well, he's
him.
gloating. It's like if
It's not only is he gloating, but he is this sort of like materialistic bent of like, these are my things.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like,
this is my empire.
Would you like to sit on my couch, Alfredo, instead of just like, oh yeah, take a seat, man. Yeah, it's that difference.
Or like, let's sit on the couch,
Yeah, totally. Love that. Yeah, I picked up on that too, but not to that like linguistic
That was
kind
the other
of conscious.
That was the other product placement as well. We've got Campari.
Oh, yep. Yes, sir. Super awkward hot air balloon sequence.
Yeah, I also like that we hear the two people talking. I think it's Klaus and someone else, and they're talking about Winslet Richardson, like, oh, I like her hair. And it's like, yeah, me too, but Steve called her first,
Yeah, I always cringe at all that stuff. Everything between Steve and Jane in this movie is so cringy.
Yeah, it's not great, but it is pretty like believable.
Well, it's a big part of his character is just how big of it. He's just living in the past. He's living like he's this rock star when he's washed up, and he's missing the important things on life and just focusing on them, like the most bodily desires.
Yeah, for sure. I did note that she's wearing, so he's still wearing his Adidas, right?
Yeah.
But she's wearing like Chucks, Converse, and I was like, that's not very practical, but it's very Wes Anderson, very quirky,
Yeah.
for the reporter to be wearing those shoes. And then we do get the background here where she says that Ross is her editor, that's the father, and he's married, but not to her. Great Wes Anderson like dialogue for like getting this this exposition out in like a fun kind of funny way.
Totally. I don't really have much from this conversation after the
I mean, she asked, why did you abandon Ned?
Yeah,
which is like a very like heavy moment, right?
Totally. What does he say? I don't remember.
I can't. I don't remember. I think it's It happens after he tries to kiss
I feel
her.
like he brushes it off. I did write down. Uh, he shows something about how like he's trying to get her to feel for because she's saying what her situation is, and he's trying to get her to feel for him, and he shows her the tattoo of like to memorialize his like ex-wife or something.
Jacqueline, yeah.
Yeah.
What's deep search?
Yeah, instead of putting her name on it, he puts the submarine's name on it.
No, he has both.
Oh, he did? I missed
because
it, okay.
that's what the submarine has. The submarine has her name crossed out and then deep search. And his tattoo has her name, and then under it says "Deep Search."
Gotcha.
Which is I love that. And also, like, part of the whole cringe thing too is like he's like sitting there, and she's like, "Wow, I had this picture of you when I was a kid that looked exactly like that." And he was like, "Oh, the official one where I'm pointing like this," and she's like, "Yes." And then he like blocks the sun for her, and then he tries to like kiss her, and she like is not into that, and it's definitely like that's so gross, she's like, "Oh, like I looked up to you when I was a kid," and he's like, "Oh yeah, well,
yeah, you like
make a little move."
As soon as you give him any kind of sense of ego and power, just immediately the grossest side of him comes out.
And then there is the sort of like why after that attempt is when she says, "Why did you abandon Ned?" And I don't remember what he says after that, but then she like takes a big sip from his drink, and he says, "You really think it's okay to hit the sauce while you're pregnant?"
Oh yeah.
Well, you got a bun in the oven is what he says. But yeah, it's very like very uncomfy, their whole thing. But again, it feels very like true to like that sort of like character, right?
Yeah. No, and I think they have a great relationship throughout the film. They have catharsis, but it's like mostly unspoken.
Yeah, there's a nice little part at the end for sure.
I really like that, yeah.
And we have the perfect shot of the Campari bottle in this next scene where he's talking to Wolodarski, and this is where we get the other thing about the dolphins again, where he wants to like use them to spy on someone.
I just wrote I'm sick of these dolphins. Just like these useless dolphins around, I guess. Like.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that they probably spent a bunch of money on these dolphins, and he's like, "God, these dolphins
I guess
are useless."
That's the bit. I just kept expecting like a payoff with them, but nope.
No, they just seem really cool, and they're just like
they just hang out.
Just chilling. Just fucking freeloaders. Really, they're pretty smart,
Yeah, but they don't need to do anything, so.
And then this is where we get the letter first, because
yeah.
And it's not, we don't hear
Steve and Ned
what's
are like
in
listening to whales, and
yeah,
Ned thinks it's like a siren.
We don't hear what's in the actual letter. We just see the reply.
Right.
Which is really fucking funny, because it's like he's like, "Oh, did I reply to you?" And he's like, "Yeah," and then like he reads it out. It says dictated, not read. And he's like, "Yeah, pretty standard boilerplate." It's so fucking funny.
Yeah, but I did think, even though he said that, I was like, that's a fairly thoughtful letter. Like,
No, it sounded nice, because he says, "In answer to your first question, always," or something like that.
Yeah, and I think he told him...
Which is about, do you wish you could breathe underwater?
Yeah, and I think he tells him, I love that. And he tells him that you're obviously a very like smart boy or something like that, based on your questions and all that, and like
my wife tells me that's actually a kind of gnat.
Yeah, he's asking him about a bug. That's right. Yeah, good, cute little.
Later on, when they show the letter, he says, "I'm from Jawbone, Kentucky," which I hope is a real place.
Yeah, that's good.
And then we get another one of these like nice titles where we get Day 5, arrive at Hennessy's lab.
Yes.
And then it's like, "Who locked us out? We're trespassing." Immediately. I love that shit.
It's the scientific community, man. That's what he tells him.
And Bill is like, "You're really gonna break in?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I'm gonna have to like report this." He was like, and he says to him, "Just do whatever you got to do to cover your ass, Bill." Which I love, because it's like we're already not treating Bill like shit anymore. Yeah, like it's like whatever. Yeah, Bill, you do you, baby.
Yeah, that's your job. I love it.
And this is really fun too. We get some cool like nice long shots of them going down, and like all the stuff that they're like stealing. And this is where I think we first see now Anne-Marie is wearing a shirt.
Okay.
And a jacket.
Yeah, I don't have any more script girl tits out notes. I don't think for the
No.
movie. So I think
Yeah.
now she is a character now.
Damn. Yeah. We and the alarm, of course, going off. So we have like this thing. Well, the Coast Guard is coming. So I love how we're like, oh shit, okay. There is this like urgency to everything that happens. But then he walks by the like it's like espresso machine. He's like, yeah, let's take that too.
yeah, and this is when Anne Marie warns of coursing through the uncharted water.
I love this shit about like your way is like 4 inches, my way is like 1.5 inches.
Yeah, do you want to pay for that gas? I think he says.
Yeah. It's some good banter, but yeah, then setting up like the actual danger that they're like heading into.
Yeah, and I think this is also where they kind of just, the movie, like, it's interesting because the plot is so in the background of this movie, and I feel like that's pretty common for Wes Anderson movies a lot of the time, where it's like their goal, it's not like Jaws, right? Their goal is to get the shark, and it's a movie about getting that shark. This is like, there's a bunch of drama and like things happening.
A lot of interpersonal shit.
Yeah, you're just kind of like living in this world. Oh yeah, and I think the shark's over here. Like,
yeah, exactly. I think, and then we do get that they've located the shark when they're down there.
Yeah.
And I think what he actually says about it, with the coffee machine, he goes, "Does this thing make cappuccinos?" It's fucking just classic fucking Steve Zissou.
Totally. I think the next thing I have is the cut to when they're in the sauna.
Oh, I just want to say there's a really sick drum track throughout all this.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, I
So the music that isn't like David Bowie or like big like 60s, 70s
or acoustic
rock
guitar,
songs or Seu Jorge, a lot of this like very simple-ish like synth like tracks,
super quirky.
They work so well for the ocean environment and the idea of ocean exploration. I think because it feels like slightly sort of in the Boards of Canada vein, where Boards of Canada is trying to imitate the style of documentary music, right?
Oh wow. Man,
so
I haven't thought about that band in a long time. That's cool.
Oh, they're really cool. I was diving into I can't remember what this style of music is called.
What was that one track? Everything You Do Goes Up?
Everything You Do is a Balloon.
Yeah, I love that.
I can't remember. There's this style. Oh, library music is what it's called. And it's this whole huge genre that people used to make a lot of money making this kind of music, and it like definitely feels of that ilk.
Totally.
It feels like a cool kind of nod to that. Like, feels like it would be in like a documentary you would have watched like from the 80s or something,
Totally. Yeah, so we cut to them in the sauna.
Well, we also get Steve tells Ned, "I might like Jane."
Oh, is
or
that
like
here?
he has like a thing, like he has like a little thing for her.
Right. Yeah, fuck off, Steve. So they're in the sauna, and she's asking him, "You changed your name to Kingsley Zissou?" And just like literally letting that settle in.
Really quickly, right before that, we do have them back on the boat looking at the ping, and there's a phantom ping that Ned points out, and
he gets jealous here.
Yeah, Steve takes him aside, and he's like next time in front of the reporter, I may make me look like a bit of a daydream Johnny. Essentially telling him like,
daydream Johnny,
dude, tell me, and then I can look cool by saying it, right? Like, because otherwise you'll make me look bad.
Ugh.
Again, love that setup. But yeah, then she tells him that she prefers his birth name, Edward Plimpton.
Yeah, this whole scene's really cute. Their relationship's really cute. He made a necklace out of the shell he gave her.
He stole it back
so that he can make her a necklace.
And then peppermint floss. And that's the thing about Wes Anderson. Intentionality to the nth degree. It's not just dental floss. Well, it's not just a piece of string. It's a piece of dental floss. It's not just dental floss. It's peppermint floss. Like these little details that make it feel so
tangible.
And in that specific, it's just so cute. The way that's like, oh, it took it back from you. I strung it on the peppermint floss.
Yeah, just how thoughtful.
And then again, just quickly interrupted by Pele and Ogata busting in. And I love that like Pele immediately covers his eyes like with like one of those like little eye covers for when you're sleeping. And then Ogata has a sandwich. It's like they have so much fun, like sort of like object work and just like decisions for those additional cast members. Because Bobby Ogata says like, only like maybe a couple of lines, like maybe
Yeah.
one line in this movie. I actually really looked him up because he looked so interesting to me. For a second, I thought he might be like a pro skateboarder, but then I was like, oh no, it's not. And the guy's name is Niels Koizumi, and he was in this. He was only in like 2 movies. He was in this movie, and then he was like a sous chef in
Oh,
the
really?
movie Hitch or something.
Wow. Wild.
And it's so interesting that that was all he was ever in.
Yeah. No, I love like what you were saying, just all the background stuff all the crew's doing. Like I can't say that I have like personalities tied to most of them, but I do just get the sense it really adds to this whole like this extraordinary lifestyle is just so mundane for them, and I think that's really fun.
Yeah, for sure. They feel like it feels like a group of like stoner friends. Like
Yeah.
really like I mean like they're just kind of doing whatever, playing guitar, eating sandwiches, like playing pinball
Doing
or
some art
foosball,
projects, yeah.
whatever. Yeah, I mean, yeah, working on the movie, you know, yeah.
Totally.
Pretty good stuff.
Yeah, and then I think this is when Jane comes back to her room, and again, he's broken into her room with a crowbar.
Yeah, she said, "I can't believe I forgot to lock it." He's like, "You did lock it."
Yeah, it's so fucked up. And then when he leaves, he's like, "Please don't make fun of me. I just wanted to flirt with you." It's
Yeah.
like, bro, that's
Yeah,
so
'cause
many red flags.
He was reading the article, and
Yeah.
he calls his red hat contrived.
Sorry, you think my red hat's contrived?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny how she's doing this whole thing where she's not saying fuck, right?
Oh,
And he's like, "Why
yeah.
don't you just swear?" And she's like, it very clear like she wants her baby to like have like
Trying
a
to
good
get in a
life,
good
right?
habit,
She
and-
wants to be a good mother.
And he's just like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense," which I like. We cut to
The Coast Guard is telling Hennessy that his
Yeah.
lab was broken into, so now they're in pursuit. And I like
Yes.
that we have again another one of these sort of things where it's like,
There's a
oh,
cat and mouse, but also
Yes.
a dog chasing the cat. Yeah, totally. And I love that the last line of the scene I think is "Get me my elephant gun," or like load it up.
yeah, some wild shit like that, dude. Yeah, Hennessy's a funny character.
He's
Very
great,
Jeff
dude.
Goldblum.
Yes, I mean Jeff Goldblum is just again, yeah, like you mentioned, just a perfect fit for Wes Anderson films. Just
Yeah.
like just such his wry humor is just like
Yeah, and just his like delivery, and he's
Yeah.
got this very good like articulation, like each word,
totally.
it's very intentionally said as it comes out of his mouth.
And he's just such like a quirky personality.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Those hands, man, he's got those hands.
He sure does.
And then we have them investigating the phantom signal, and we get this scene where he says, "Can I call you Dad?"
Oh, okay. Before that, there is such a goofy scene where they're explaining how a lot of helmets have like speakers in it.
Oh yeah,
but
no, they got a little
they're
yeah.
having it,
And he
and,
starts playing the music.
and yeah, and he does this little dance.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And I saw Bill Murray break character. Like he started chuckling a little bit at the end of the scene, but they just kept it in.
He calls Cousteau. He's like insulting Jacques Cousteau, which is so funny. Jacques Cousteau. He's like saying something about like, oh, they think that he's like the first one to put like radio in a helmet. But yeah, then the music again. That's when I was like, oh, there's Devo right there. I can hear it in that little like in that little synth.
Totally. And I love this whole sequence. The track fits it awesomely.
Yeah, it's so dope. Like I think that the music to this film, like all the different components of it are so cool. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of minimalism in
Yeah.
the like in the acoustic guitar and the like very like dee 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 dee,
Yeah.
like sort of like
That being
synth
said,
music.
I could see people really not jiving with it because it
Yeah.
is so weird. It's so out there, but like
And
it really
I-
works for me.
I don't necessarily want to be friends with those people.
That's fair. Yeah, then can I address you as dad? And then he says no why to that. No, why? Bro.
I know, which is like, I love that. Again, some of that really fucking classic, silly fucking dialogue. But and then I love. I was like, oh no, but you're on the right track. A nickname would be good. Call me Steve Z.
Steve Z, bro.
It's so fucking.
It's
Wait,
really funny.
it's great. It is a great setup though for the payoff later,
Yep.
where he says Papa Steve.
Yeah.
That's cute. You know, it's
really
a
cute.
compromise
It's
in
almost
ways.
there.
Almost there.
He's just a little
Almost
late
there.
by the end, but yeah. It's really good.
All the fish look fucking amazing, dude.
Yes, well, just in the set, I don't like the like the big what do you call that like kelp or whatever, like whatever is the
Yeah, they're in
floating
like this
plant.
little. It feels very Subnautica, dude.
Yeah.
It reminds me
I
so
haven't played
much
it,
of
but
that
I've
video
seen
game.
a lot of it.
Well, like it's like the fish aren't like the fish of our world. They look like alien fish. Just like
it all just feels so
and
fun
everything's
and
so
weird
like
and
bright
yeah.
and like, bright and like fluorescent, right? Like it's very cool. I dig that a lot. I also like how they dive into the sort of wreckage that they found, and it cuts to him doing the sort of narration for like, and he says like, then we proceeded into it, doing our best not to disturb anything in the crash, and we don't see the crash. But like we don't need to. Like, our sense of wonder is already tickled enough. It is really this cool sort of like choice to like not show at that moment.
Yeah, and I do like watching them kind of go through the motions of setting up how they're going to film it, where they're like, okay, now you say like, look, Ned, there's a sunken airplane over there or whatever,
For sure. And I think what I like about it is that that's actually like it does remind me sort of like of these early sort of documentarians like Nanook of the North or whatever, which a lot of these things were like staged, right? Like they weren't super naturalistic.
Right.
And there are a lot of these sort of like, there's a little bit of like Werner Herzog in this, right? Where like you're like sort of staging things to like get across the like essence of the truth, not necessarily showing the like essential truth, right? Like,
this is a deep cut, but it reminds me of something I once learned about where in the Civil War, when photography was starting, they would like photographers would, or maybe it was just one photographer in particular, he would line up a bunch of bodies together to take pictures of it. And like I think a law developed soon after this, like to not allow like messing with a scene like this. But like that was something that had to be put into law because you're gonna frame it in the best way you can to state your purpose, your image.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, photography back then also was like, it took so long to take one picture that it like I can kind of understand why.
Just get them all in one shot.
Yeah, it's gonna take so fucking long. Like, let me be efficient. Like, this costs a lot of money,
That's really funny. Yeah, I mean, it's not really. It's pretty macabre, but
yeah, we get Ned's revenge as well. He slaps Faust and he says we're even, and then they do this very Andersonian back and forth about being even or not, or him owing him one.
Yeah.
And then Klaus, just being sad. It's like, that's so great because like you have this sort of like rivalry between them, but like showing the guy who's sort of the like antagonist, like in this like vulnerable light where he's like, you can tell like, he like really cares about Steve and Steve's his friend and he used to be the right hand guy.
Yeah. And totally. Well, and as we find out, he looked up to him as like a father figure, and now here's his actual, well, not actual, but basically actual son showing up. He feels displaced. He's kind of going through the like classic young child who gets a new baby brother or sister,
And then we get the first sort of tease of the pirates coming after them. We have the title Day 9 in Unprotected Waters.
I missed the title here.
And he says, he says that he saw a beat up little jalopy, and it seems like nobody else saw it. Steve's gonna go on the sun, and he's like, "Who's on watch?" And I do kind of love that there is like, as Anne Marie will say later on, this is ultimately Steve's fault for taking them through unprotected waters.
Yeah.
But we have a dereliction of duty.
Yeah.
By
Ned.
By Ned, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think it's really funny too because I mean we'll talk about it obviously, but I just love that it's also like when it happens, he's just like Seu Jorge is just playing guitar too, so it's like it's very sort of like everyone's very casual.
He notices the latter.
Yeah,
just like, huh?
It's so good. It's so good. But yeah, then we have why Ned misses his whole sort of watch because he's with Jane. They're getting to know each other. He says that line that is very cute and also kind of like weird. I never felt a baby in someone's stomach before.
Oh yeah, I wrote down Jane and Ned kiss after awkward line, but I wasn't sure what the awkward
Yeah.
line was.
Well, he also said, "I think you'll make a great single mother, although statistically or
Oh,
something like that,
that's probably
you're
it.
gonna be much worse off or something like that."
Yeah,
Which I love.
that's
Yeah.
the line.
And this is at 60 minutes.
Texas 60, baby. This is also
We
when
get Steve walking by the
the
dolphin monitor
display.
right as it's looking into the porthole and
So
sees them like hooking up.
specific.
And then yeah, we have Pele playing Pele dos Santos playing the fucking
He's playing
guitar.
Major Tom.
Yeah,
in
and like
Portuguese.
just like looking off in the distance. And then yeah, we could see in the background great framing, really fucking casual, just
Yeah.
the way the boat strolls up and the ladder comes down and he looks off to the side. And it is like realistically everyone is just kind of like not taking it seriously, right?
Yeah.
Like Steve isn't taking the danger of it seriously. Pele isn't taking the danger of like the moment seriously. But again, it is like sort of this like palate cleansing, chorusy sort of like, all right, like this is a point, like a transition point in the story
Totally.
because it becomes a very sort of like action heavy like movie at this point.
Yeah, this is a wild act in a movie that's so subdued. I mean,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, no,
I
no,
love
it is. It is a fun. It is like Wes Anderson's action movie.
Yeah, yeah.
I love his sort of take. It's so awkward the way that like, you know, them shooting and stuff, and really love it. Feels very Johnny Quest for sure. Like,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so hold on. Sorry, I'm
that's
catching
okay.
up on my notes. So yeah, Steve locked to the sink.
He's yeah. Steve is in the sauna, and well, because it happens sort of like slowly, where like
Yeah.
everyone becomes involved. Because Steve is like smoking a doobie in the sauna. He hears the commotion. I love that sort of like use of like the sound where you can hear that things kind of seem troubling, and then Klaus says, "Steve, can you please come to the door?" You know, like, really funny. And then he does the same thing to Jane and Ned, right?
Uh-huh.
And and Ned says to him, he goes, "Are those hijackers?" And he says, "Well, we call them pirates here, Ned."
Yeah, and I love at one point, I don't know exactly where this fits in, but he says, "Don't point your gun at him. He's an unpaid intern."
Oh yeah, that's later on because so what happens is that they open the door and like and Ned is and then they're all like tied together. Jane is like hog tied and Steve, like you said, is tied to the sink, and then like he's obviously pissed off, like, you know, you were supposed to be on watch. He's also obviously very jealous.
Which is a big problem. Like you said, they weren't taking the situation seriously, but you could imagine yourself being in your off time where you're like, well, so it's someone else's job to be worried about it right now, and they weren't, you know. So it's like, it really is on Ned here.
Yeah, again, as Anne Marie points out later on, it is ultimately Steve's fault.
Yes.
But like Ned is aware.
Yeah.
And then like what happens is they come into the room, they smack Ned with the gun, right?
Yeah.
And Steve obviously showing a lot of like distress at this, and they take Ned away. And then right after that, they have Jane and Steve coming up, and like we get this sort of tour of the whole crew has been like tied up. And yeah, the line of like, "Don't point a gun at him," and he's like trying to cover the gun up with his hand. It's so fucking funny. He also like connects with each of, which I
Yes.
think kind of shows his strength as a leader, that he's
Yes.
like, "Klausy, I have my hand on your back. Vikram, how are you shooting this?"
Yeah, I fucking love this for his character because the whole movie has been shitting on him and he sucks. And you see where this ego comes from in this whole sequence where it's like, oh, he's actually pretty fucking badass.
Yeah, he's
ready to
super
fight
badass.
all of these pirates by himself. He does not give a fuck.
Yeah, I guess the specific line he says is, "What kind of coverage are you getting?" And and Vikram says like something about how he was like, "I was filming and then they put this over my head," and he's just like holding the camera and it's supposedly still rolling. That's feels very Vice documentary.
I love it so
you know?
much. Yeah, we find out Bill speaks Filipino
Yeah.
here. Good
I was
old Bill.
curious about the use of the word Filipino referring to like a language, but I did a quick little Google, and it turns out that it is like a form of Tagalog that is like sort of the more like the one of the official languages of the Philippines.
Okay, yeah, no, I had met people who told me they spoke Filipino, so I was just like assumed that was the main language. But yeah, that's interesting. It's like a subsect.
I would always just heard the word Tagalog when talking about
Mm.
like the dominant language of the Philippines, but it seems like Filipino is like another word for Tagalog, but also refers to a sort of specific version of it.
That's very interesting.
Very fascinating.
So okay, this is so funny. The whole sequence of Steve kicking ass here, which is great little action set piece, just very like it's not like we've watched a lot of crazy action like scenes on this podcast so far. It's not like some amazing action moment, but in the context, again, like I said earlier, because it's so muted, it makes it so when it's not muted, pops so much harder, right? Like it just like the simple act of someone throwing a grenade and that exploding feels so much bigger than when you're in a movie and there's explosions going on all the time.
For sure. And I think the movie does a good job of ratcheting up the tension because
Yeah.
there is this thing. Yeah, Bill speaks Filipino. And it's funny, as he's translating, he's realizing like they're going to take me instead of Ned because I speak Filipino, right?
Yeah.
And then there's this sort of like flashing of everything that's happening. This is where Anne Marie said, I told you that these are unprotected waters. Like this is like
Yeah.
your fault, man. And like the tension is just like growing with these like rapid cuts of like all the things that are sort of happening. And then he like fucking breaks through the bonds. And this is something that happens a couple of times in the movie, namely towards the end with Ned. There's another moment where there is this sort of like really frantic editing, but I thought
with the red and like yeah. I know.
I thought it was really well used, especially when we're talking about like let's use editing and camera to like do some emotionality, right? Especially when we do have these sort of like emotionally muted characters.
Totally. And what's so funny about this sequence here is I think because of what I was just talking about, of how muted the movie is, I was like, wait, is this a dream sequence? And I couldn't remember if this was just like a moment of him being like, oh, that's what I could do. But now it's going to cut to him being like, oh, no, I'm still arrested and I didn't do all that.
For sure.
Because it feels just so over the top.
It has that vibe for sure. I also I wanted to say I love how they're like, do you have a vault? And he's like, nope. And then it cuts to all of them like together watching a video of Steve Zissou, and he's like, this is our vault where we have like all this different currency. It's fucking great.
It's
really
so
good stuff.
And yeah, during the fight, the whole shot of the intern getting the machete in the shoulder, just the way it's
was really
shot,
fucking
it's
funny.
So funny. I don't know why it's
And
so
then fucking
funny.
Steve kills a guy.
Yeah, he
Like
does.
there's a lot of weight to like the one dude who gets killed.
Yeah. There's some things about
it's so
like,
awkward.
yeah,
and it feels,
maybe that's why it's so funny. It's just all
it
just
feels
so
kind
awkward.
of real in that way that it is like so like
I was thinking the same.
ungraceful.
Yeah,
you know?
that it would be really like you hear about this all the time, like where people like are always talking crap about movies because like nobody can shoot correctly, and yeah, it's a lot of times it is just like plot armor, but it actually is like a thing where if you are in a like range of getting shot by someone, the adrenaline of that situation is going to make your aim shit unless you're like a pro, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I after he kills the guy too, he says the thing, I've never seen a Bond company stooge stick his neck out like that.
Yes.
Like just I love
What
this
a way
growing
to wrap
relationship,
it up.
you know?
Yeah, that's his line too. It's just well, that really cements how badass he is too. It's not like, wow, that was intense,
Yeah.
or like I need to catch
Well,
my
and
breath.
then
It's just
he-
like, wow,
He
that guy
snaps
was cool.
he snaps into action as a captain. He starts telling everyone what to do, and we see again how great his leadership is. Like you're on this, you're on this, you're on that, almost to an inappropriate degree and kind of silly because it's like these guys just like evaded like capture, like
Yeah.
thank God, but just like snapping into action.
Right. And I love I think what ends the scene is like, you left your dog, you idiots. And he's
Yeah.
like, those fucking amateurs.
It's great. It's good stuff.
It's really
There's a lot
funny.
of incompetence in this movie that I
Yeah.
feel like is very fun.
Yeah, totally.
I think Wes Anderson has some of that in like his movies as well. I think the Coen brothers are great at that though. That's like they're masters of the whole like the comedy of incompetence, I mean like with like Fargo,
Yeah.
or even like The Big Lebowski, but I always love those sort of things. Like And we've already sort of set up like Zissou. They're like a bit of a ragtag group. They're a little bit of like
I mean,
amateurs.
they literally keep having to Fonzie hit the lights to turn on.
Yeah, so it's just a great moment where it's like, their ship is like wrecked, and it's like, it's good little irony.
Yeah. Day 14. I didn't get the title.
Day 14 is over Mutiny on the Belafonte. Because there is like, it's them talking about how they're just going to bury the guy at sea.
Right.
And then them checking on Ned, asking how many fingers. And he obviously seems to not be okay, but Steve is like, he'll be fine. And then we get like the Day 14, Mutiny on the Belafonte. And we get Anne-Marie saying that Steve is selfish and that he like knowingly led them into danger. And Klaus,
so funny,
has a great line here because it's really the thesis of the movie. It's like, I see where you're coming from, but like, I think you misjudged the guy.
I think you misjudged the guy. And
then he walks out.
He walks out, and then you see him peek back through the window. He's
like eating a bowl of cereal or something. Like it's great.
It's just the way it's shot, the way it's acted, it's just so fucking comic, man. It's amazing.
Same with this next part, right, where we have them doing the whole like the framing is so important in these movies and is like another comedic device that's so well used. Like we have Klaus like reading a little something over the guy's dead body, and then like Hennessy pulls up, right, and it's just like a sound off frame of like a horn where we're like, oh, and then like turn to look, and it's like this huge boat,
massive boat pulled up on them,
huge boat. Like they would have seen that from so far away, but it doesn't matter because it's way funnier that way.
You're so right. Yeah, the scene between Hennessy and Steve is so good.
Yeah, where he's telling him that he can tow him and it's going to be expensive. This is what we were talking about earlier, where he smacks, like, the dog.
Yeah, what an asshole.
And then, of course,
Who smacks someone else's dog because they're misbehaving? Unacceptable.
Maybe in the 70s.
I would clock that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fucked up.
I guess it wasn't really his dog, though, so, if it wasn't my dog.
Well, it is really kind of cute because he's like, what's your dog's name? And he, like, stops and thinks he goes, Cody. Which is I love the way he delivers it.
Again, Wes Anderson doing him dirty though, dude. What happens to Cody? He just gets abandoned.
Yeah, I kind of love it though. It just kind of
just bums me out.
Dude, Cedric will take care of him, dude. Don't worry.
Okay. You're right. I do love that guy. I forgot about it.
He's a little kid.
He's just like smoking a crab on the beachside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve gives his speech. Klaus crosses the line because he's confused.
Also know that now we know that where Eleanor is, she's vacationing at Hennessy's
his, like, villa.
Yeah. In Port-à-Patois.
That's right. He rubs that in right before he leaves his boat.
Yeah, how's Team Zissou holding up without her?
Yeah.
Right?
Not well.
Yeah.
Not great.
We know.
Yeah.
Drawing of the line.
Yeah, they draw the line. Klaus.
This is so funny because it is confusing because he's like, if you're against me, cross the line. And Klaus so happily crosses the line.
Yeah, he's just like ready to do whatever he
why?
tells him.
He's so hurt, right? And Steve is like, wait,
why, Klaus? Well, what do you mean?
Like, okay, let's do it over. And then Anne-Marie and the interns
and then
crossing.
Klaus is so bummed that he ruined that moment too. He's like, oh, I messed everything up.
That's good shit, dude. It's fun to see like Willem Dafoe and just like a very comedy, comedic relief character.
Yeah, because I mean, even though Finding Nemo is very like comedic,
no,
movie,
he plays it super straight.
Yeah, he's the serious one.
Yeah, he plays it super duper straight. But yeah, it is a fun thing too. Just I love the way it just cuts to because he's like, how is Team Zissou doing? And the exact next scene is like just him drawing a line in the sand. It's good shit. It's funny.
It really is. Anne-Marie and the interns. I think Anne-Marie is the first one to actually step forward. Yeah, and then the rest of the interns follow. And we get a phone call of Jane breaking up with Ross. Breaking up, I wrote.
Well, she's like, she's not coming back.
Yeah. But she also says this is like my final phone call or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, she's not coming back. She's done with the piece.
Yep. But she's also leaving the ship.
Yeah.
I love that she's just like not caught up in Steve's world, right? Like Steve has this whole performance, like the most, like he says, like one of the most dramatic things that's happened on this, on this ship or whatever, and she's just like,
Oh,
no,
sorry.
we just got attacked by pirates. Like I got shit to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm leaving. Sorry, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the article anymore. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, before she tells him that she's scrapping the article, we get Jane and Ned saying goodbye to each other.
Yeah, which is a very sweet scene.
The 50, it's so funny. He has
letters.
50 self-addressed stamped envelopes with 3 blank pages each and gives her a pen.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because in So Many Lights, if it wasn't like set up in the way Wes Anderson so like, masterfully sets it up, this would be a very creepy thing to do. But because it's so like
they're very cute. They're very
it's
like
it's
they're
just
very
very
sweet,
believable.
and he's very genuine.
It's the earnestness, yeah.
Yeah, and the way he says, "I feel as though my heart is being broken."
Yeah.
It's so cute, and I'm just like, feel for the guy, dude.
Yeah,
you know?
and she's like, really? Like, them negotiating what the relationship is in real time. Yeah, just well done human stuff. It's the part that really grounds
absolutely
this movie.
It's the shit he like focuses on, like,
Yeah.
and it really fucking shines, I think. And then him just like saying that was all off the record, Cubby, and she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like you said, and
yeah, he's like, that was
this is the most dramatic thing that's ever happened on this boat. And then that's when she's gonna scrap the article because everything got too weird.
Yeah, and then I wrote.
And then she starts crying again, and he says, "You cry easily, don't you?" Again, being fucking douchebag.
Yeah, she is pregnant. She does cry a lot.
I don't know if she cries a lot. We've seen her cry 2 times over the course of like 2 weeks. I don't think that's a lot. Also, like, the situation she's in is a hard situation to be in,
Totally.
I feel like twice in 2 weeks, when you're in that situation.
But it's more like twice in like 10 scenes.
Yeah, but the real people in 2 weeks.
Sure.
I don't think you're supposed to be like, yeah, he's right. She cries a lot. I think you're supposed to be like, that's a dick thing to say.
Yeah, definitely. No, he's being an asshole.
Everybody remember what side of history Connor and I were on.
He's being an asshole. But she's also very emotional, which, yeah, like you said, reasonable. But like, in the middle of the interview when she's shit talking him, and then he like says like one thing back to her, and she starts crying. It's a little like melodramatic.
I don't remember what it is that he says.
Well, she's basically laying into him, and she's like, "Well, I think you're like a fake journalist or whatever," and something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I wrote. He calls his agent.
I think it's appropriate.
Well, we should dive into how
he's the
appropriate it is.
producer. He's the producer
Sorry,
again.
Yes, the producer.
Yeah, he's rolling a joint. He's doing a double wide, too. So he's gonna roll up a real fatty for this one.
Yeah, I didn't write down what they talked about. I don't remember. I just wrote Steve calls producer, LOL.
Well, the guy tells him this wouldn't have happened if Eleanor was there.
Oh yeah.
And then Steve is basically like, "What do I do? Because we don't have any money." And he's like, "I mean, nothing's really coming to mind." And then he asks the other. He's like, "Let me ask Philip." Nope, he's nodding his head. Also, his visa status is like X9, so he's like in trouble. So he has to like disappear for a little while.
Yeah, I think that's what made me laugh was the. No, he's shaking his head no, just the earnestness of his delivery.
And then the next part is the day 20 when they're towed into Port au Patois. So really crying twice in 3 weeks almost,
Wow.
I cried more than 2 times watching this movie.
No, I mean, I'm just referring to the trope of the woman who immediately breaks into tears every time she's challenged. But like, I think there's enough going on with her and her being pregnant that it's not unrealistic. But
yeah, felt good to me. I like her. She's fun.
Yeah, I love Jane.
Land ho.
Yes,
land ho.
I wrote aggressive land ho.
It's so fucking funny the way the Hennessy workers are looking back like, what the fuck is going on?
It's just so over the top.
Yeah, and then we get Zissou telling them all the interns are gonna get incompletes.
What an asshole.
And the guy goes, "This is bullshit."
Which it is.
Yeah. He says, "I don't want to fail you guys, but I can't let you
Can't pass you in good conscience,
yeah,
basically. Yeah.
just fucking incompletes.
What an asshole.
And then we kind of see what Steve's plan is. I guess there's an awesome sort of travel montage of him going to the Hennessy Villa, right?
Yeah,
To go
to Eleanor.
to go seek out Eleanor. We have those cool frogs that are like on the like welcome mat that are really fucking cool. I love how they're like flipping. I don't know, this weird like plays of light. Great little touches like that. And the whole thing of like I was gonna butter you up, and she's like turns him down immediately. He's like, "Can I butter you up anyway?" And then yeah, this whole sort of like conversation between them. This was really, I think, what ultimately really got to me. We have some stuff, we see Javier, her research assistant.
Well, yeah, I gotta point out Javier because
he's a hunk, dude.
It's just so funny, dude.
Javier's a fucking
he pulls
hunk.
up this beautiful villa that his wife's at, and it's just like shirtless, like
Hunk.
model.
Yeah, and we do get another sort of like weird like remark where he calls him a closet queer. Again, don't love that, but as we say, the part in the end kind of makes, I guess, slightly softens the blow.
Sure.
But yeah, I also, this one I noticed that Eleanor has like blue streaks in her hair.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Yeah, I was like, that's very interesting.
We love blue in Aquatic Month.
Yeah, it was also just like an interesting like decision, like visually, like it makes her seem like a hipper old lady,
Well, I kind of got that this is her kind of like
right, yeah,
her cool midlife crisis, right?
Yeah,
where she's
for
like,
sure.
what am I doing in my
She's
life?
very cool.
She's so cool.
She's fucking dope.
I love her.
I'm a big fan. I love how he says, because this is before they go out on the balcony, which is a beautifully framed scene that I really love. But
I like this scene a lot.
But the part right before that, he says to her, I'm not big on apologizing, so I'll just skip it if it's all the same to you. And she's like, okay. And then he does say, I'm sorry, and kind of offers an apology. And I love that sort of like conflicting sort of little thing that happens.
Yeah, well, even first when he shows up, she's like, what do you want? He's like, well, I came up with this whole thing.
Yeah, I
want to
butter you up.
Yeah, can I butter you up? Yeah, and she's like, no. And then she's like, okay, well, and then she says no to what he wants. Can I have money? And then
Can I butter you up anyway?
It's like, yeah, okay.
It's good. It's good stuff. It's fun back and forth for sure. But then it's like the whole scene starts with it's like empty, and he says, "What happened to me?" And he steps into the frame, and this is really one of those very like play-like moments to me. Like,
yeah, we get the little claymation lizard on his hand before this.
Yeah, he like
too.
flicks it off. Yeah, it's very cool. All that shit, so dope, dude. Henry Selick, man.
Yeah. Yeah, underspoken hero, apparently.
Yeah, Henry Selick, dude. Great fucking animator. Great animation director.
100.
I love that, too. That collaboration is so... Like, just thinking about, like, what if I make an undersea movie, and to do it, I work with the guy who did Nightmare Before Christmas, and I work with the guy from Devo. Like,
totally.
so that they can do animation
what a
and
weird,
music respectively.
Weird little super group.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. And of course, Robert Yeoman, who's a great cinematographer, who really has like mastered sort of like Wes Anderson sort of style.
Yeah.
We probably undersell because it is so like intentional. How much of that maybe is Robert Yeoman style as well?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It was actually interesting. I was looking at the movies that Robert Yeoman has also done cinematography for, besides like Wes Anderson movies, and the list there's some interesting ones on there. He did Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again.
Okay.
He did like the newer Ghostbusters. He did that Melissa McCarthy movie Spy.
Oh.
Just so many wild like sort of movies, so
Wow.
It's very interesting. He did Get Him to the Greek.
Oh wow.
Yes, man.
Wow.
This is so wild, dude. This guy has such a deep friggin' catalog of films. And then he did the Squid and the Whale, of course, which is a Noah Baumbach film. But yeah, just what an interesting cinematographer.
Yeah.
Quite a breadth of work, if you will.
Yeah. Sounds like it. It's wild.
But yes, as I was saying about the scene, where he's like, he says, "What happened to me?" And he like walks into it, And then as she starts talking, she like walks into it, and then like it does this nice little push in as they're like as he's lighting his doobie on her like clove. And again, it's just like what a like nice, very like it's just like dripping with emotion, you know, like this
Yeah.
like longing for what could have been.
Yeah.
Longing, huh?
Yeah. Hey,
This sense
Water
of
theme.
loss.
baby.
And this is the thing that I was alluding to earlier, where like he says we should have had a kid, shouldn't we have?
Yeah.
But then again, you were already getting like up there in age or
She's
whatever.
like, I was 34.
Like, yeah, that is a cop out. And I also love that he chose that age because like my mom, when she had my sister, was 34, and they called it a geriatric pregnancy. And the number like where people will do that like has gone up over the years. But it is really funny hearing stories from so many women who are like, yeah, I was pregnant at this age, and they like, you know, were like, oh well, you're pretty old to have like a baby, and the whole like thing,
Right.
you know. And I don't know, just think it's a funny thing to comment on, but yeah, definitely a cop out.
Yeah. I mean, he does kind of admit to, he says, I haven't been my best this last decade, which we've talked about
Yeah.
a couple times. So whatever this kind of down spiral's been, it's been the last 10 years for whatever reason. We never really get an exact clear picture on why. And that was her first question, Jane's first question, which I guess is an interesting question
What
to
do you
pose
think
in
happened?
hindsight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet somewhere along the lines he just lost the spark, right? And if whatever happened 10 years ago, yeah, what would make it specific to 10 years, you know?
I mean, I think just people like lose their passion, you know? I think it happens. I also
so
think
it's just
that
like
in the
vaguely
end,
10 years ago
what's-
kind of thing, or
what's
like
interesting is this idea of like, well, maybe he had just built up enough of a reputation at that point to
Yeah.
kind of like, you
start
know,
like phoning it in more.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I think what's real ultimately the movie isn't really concerned with the
Mm-mm.
question of what happened.
No.
It's concerned with, and just to like very quickly reference one of my favorite book series, the Stormlight Archive. The
Hell yeah.
important question, you know, what's the most important question a man can ask himself? Or what's the most important step a man can take? The next step. And that's what this movie is about. It's like, forget about what happened. What's next for
Yeah.
Team Zissou, right?
Yeah.
Like Ned says at the beginning, like that's what we really care about.
Right, and they've done such a good job setting up where he came from, that how he got to this washed up position is filled in enough, I think, by our
All the
understanding.
archetypes.
Exactly. Like we don't, that we just know this in our culture. Like, yeah, this is an archetype. Like, you get washed up when you've been a huge celebrity and you're no longer in the spotlight. Like, we don't need to know how it happens.
Yeah, for sure. And then a good use of the sort of sine wave, the up and down with this like unlikable character. We have this very sort of vulnerable moment leading right into him bursting in on fucking Ned and Jane.
Yeah.
And I love how he's like pissed off and he's like, I thought you were leaving. She's like, no, you convinced me to stay, which is like really kind of sweet, right?
Yeah, and then yeah, immediately, I love this too because, yeah, so many emotions. He comes in angry. She says something sweet, and then he immediately turns to business, like, oh, you still doing the cover story? And she's like, I don't know. And then it goes back into the emotional part, like, it's just like the pride, the emotions, the actual genuine relationship, like.
And he like even says, hey, I told you that I liked her. And he's like, no, you said not this one to Klaus. He's like, oh, but you heard me, right? And then Jane's like, you're too old for me. Like, the movie's been telling us this. We all know this, Steve.
Yeah.
Like, please just understand. She's too young for you. Stop your pursuit.
Yes. And they don't really have much chemistry.
No. No. I mean, they're funny talking to each other.
Yeah,
though.
like they have chemistry, but it's not that chemistry.
I also love that Ned, like, he like starts getting dressed because he's like, oh, what the fuck? And then Steve says, don't you dare put that uniform on. He's like, it's all I have.
Yeah, I think this is when we get the long sequence.
Yes, this is the amazing
One
long
shot,
shot of
yes,
them walking through
the
the
set.
entire boat, pretty
Oh,
much.
So cool. I love it
All
so
this
much.
lateral movement, like
Yeah.
like we were saying, it's very like XY. Like there's no Z on this part at all. It's just like literally like just moving to the left and right and up and down. Like
yeah, it's so cool. And
so fucking well done.
Nico, the intern, stayed. Steve doesn't know his name. Ned does. That's a little like peek into how they,
And this is
view
what Ned
people.
says. I'm just a character in your movie. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah, and just the way before they go up to the top, you see Jane like peeking through into the room.
Yeah. Yeah. Like she's following the conflict.
Yeah, but she's coming from a different route in the
Yeah.
ship through this one long
I
shot.
love
It's
all
just
the blocking
so cool.
shit too,
Yeah,
and
it's
I love
really
they
good.
walk through the sauna and Klaus is like, "Are you two fighting?" or some shit like that. It's so, but he's just being so cheeky,
Yeah.
so believable.
Yeah, and I think he calls her a bull dyke again or something along those lines when they get to the top of the
Yeah,
ship.
he's gonna fight it, and he tells him, "I'm gonna
I'm
fight
gonna
you."
fight you, yeah, and then
And
he
then
just
he
punches.
just sucker punches him.
Yeah, Steve just punches him in the face. And then Steve or Ned punches him back. And this is the lowest moment. This is the classic like
All is lost.
all is lost, except it gets worse kind of
Yeah,
before it gets better.
yeah. There's definitely another all is lost moment
yeah,
for
totally.
sure. It's when he's at the foot of after he tumbles down the stairs.
Yeah, well, and then again after Ned dies. But like it almost doesn't feel like that's the all is lost moment. Like I don't know.
No, it is like there is a lot of like.
It's a weird kind of structure to this movie in a lot of ways.
I think it's just like it is like a more of like a crystallization or like a sort of like
It's
yeah.
almost like the climax, like the end of the story in a lot of ways. It's like
It's very beautiful.
It
honestly.
is. It is.
It's like really well done. It's like it's really really sad, but say if you've already seen the movie, it's very easy to swallow. Like it's very
Yeah.
tastefully done.
Yeah.
In that way, I think.
That's I bet definitely digested it the best this time, but we'll get into all that. But here he says, "I don't see it. Like you're not my son." And this.
Well, and also Ned says to him that his mother told him before she died that like also, dude, we never mentioned this, but this is another example of how dark this shit is. Like his mother killed herself on sleeping pills
Yeah,
because she was
she
in
has
so much pain
cancer.
from ovarian cancer that
Yeah.
spread through her body. Like that is so fucking sad.
Yeah, it's really really dark.
It's like so heavy. And like, yeah, then he says like, she told me that you always knew about me. And this is the thing that happens a lot in Wes Anderson movies is that there's this like, sort of like playful, joyous sort of like mask that slowly slides off the face, revealing like this very sort of tragic sort of like
yeah.
stuff underlying, right?
That's
and
well said, yeah.
that's what's really happening now. It's like kind of coming undone where it is like everything's being laid bare and like let's fucking like, let's be honest, right? And put everything out there. And it's so interesting that in this exact moment is when Eleanor comes back.
Yes. Yeah, she just shows up and and then he asks Ned do you have any what does he call it? Something change, petty change, I believe. He's like, "Do you have any petty change?"
Somebody paid for this water taxi. Do you have any petty cash?
Yeah, petty cash.
Yeah, it's and Ned reaches for his pocket, pulls
yeah,
it
right
out.
in the middle of this fight.
Dude,
Yeah,
it's really good.
Great levity in this very heated moment.
And it
yeah.
is this awesome thing where it is introduced audio wise because we get Cody barking, right?
Oh yeah. Didn't notice. That's a good call.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's
Yeah.
good. And I love when Eleanor's back, I was like so happy.
Yeah, that's when I was like, yeah, I love this character so much because like as soon as she
Yeah.
shows up, everything, yeah, like you said, just comes together. It just feels
And
like
it's so cool how she just like gives the whole rundown. She brought money from her parents.
she had figured out based on
They received the message from Bill.
which is a hilarious phone call.
And they're like, oh man, really wish she would have said more. And then she's immediately like, based on the wildlife and like the distance, like
how long it took between the call and
Yeah.
she's like, I'm pretty sure it's on one of these islands.
one of
over
the Ping
here.
Islands.
Yeah,
And there
I
is
love
this
that.
great part where Steve says, I'm familiar with it, and he points at it. And then like Eleanor, like, and he points off way in the wrong direction, and Eleanor like correctly points to the right one. And like this is like so clear. Like Eleanor really is the brains of
he
the
says
operation.
it here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he says Eleanor has always been the brains. He basically is like, I bow to you in
Yeah.
front of his whole crew, which is a big moment for him, I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
I think it's great. Like he realizes that
especially
they're like
after
a team.
being such a terrible father in the last scene. Like,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I love that Ned again is like, don't we need to fix the boat first? And Steve, because it is really funny how we as the audience do get carried away so quickly with Steve, and then like is like, oh yeah, that is true. And Steve's like, yeah, of course, after that, right? So there's still some of that ego there.
Totally. I like this little scene with Eleanor and Jane bonding. This is where we find out that Steve is sterile.
Yeah, this is a lovely scene. I love this interaction between them. It's really feels yeah, I don't know. You just really feel like how important Eleanor is to this whole sort of like operation.
Yeah, and this is where I wrote down before the next day 27 title card, like just how good because we get another jamming.
Pele is in the recording booth, playing guitar and singing.
And I was just like, man, it's such a good palate cleanser for this like a very emotional section. And now we're just like, and now he just like lets you sink into the moment, lets you collect your feelings, and then like boom, day 27, we're continuing the story.
Yeah, I also like the eventual sort of reveal of like, oh, he is sterile, because like he says like he hints at the fact that they wanted to have children.
Yeah.
Right? And like it is like, I don't know, and I love ultimately that he's not actually his father. I mean, it's left up in the air, but my take is that he's not his dad, like his biological father.
Me too, yeah.
But
and just thinking about that right now, it's like earlier we were talking about when he says I hate fathers, and I was saying maybe that's like a deflection because he doesn't want to face that he's sterile. When he tells her you were a bit old anyway, that's like another one of those, right, where he's just kind of like finding ways to not really face that part of himself that is very upsetting to him.
For sure. And again, it also tracks with the idea of coming from like a shitty father, right? Like, and having a bad relationship with his father. Because like, oh, of course he thought about having kids because that's what people typically do. But there's all these like excuses for why not.
Totally. So day 27.
Rescuing the Bond company stooge.
So good.
We get the cool like shots of the editing bay again. They're like, I love how we get this sort of whole thing about how the Hennessy boat has sunk and their crew is like missing, just based on them watching cuts of their, what people call a lot in the film industry, they'll call them like dailies. I think they call them rushes in this movie, which I don't know if they're interchangeable. I'm not an insider.
Right. Well, we see the ship is like
I love it. Yeah, it's
water,
fucking,
like
it's really
style.
fucking funny shot.
Yeah.
Really, really silly shot.
And then this whole sequence, like we talked about kind of his action moment earlier.
When they finally get to Hotel Citron.
Oh my gosh, I love this sequence so much. Again, super quirky track, but it's like a banger for this scene. They're
it's so good.
Swimming out of the water.
It feels very 70s cartoon, like pulpy, or like a very pulpy sort of like do.
And we get
so
the
good.
big wide shot
when
of
they
them.
emerge, from the water.
Yes.
It's badass. Cody comes out first, and then the rest of them slowly emerge. It's like
so good.
It's this cross of like badass and silly, but still badass.
Yes. Well, again, it's because the movie has set this weird, muted, like quirky, silly tone that when something is like a little extra, like more classic, oh, this is cool, it just makes it so much cooler. Because like I think what I'm part of me striving for throughout the movie is like I want to see the cool Steve Zissou, right? I want to see Steve Zissou in his prime.
And we absolutely we do kind of get that. I also love that they're all wearing these like scuba suits, and they're all wearing them like in different ways. Like Pele has pulled his mask all the way up, and he's wearing it like a weird hat. So they look so goofy.
Yeah, they do.
I just love. And he's holding like a harpoon gun.
Yeah, and I love. Yeah,
Quint would be proud though.
Yes, absolutely. Big wide shot of them running in line with the dog, and then they running through this like little stream or something. And
swamp leeches.
Yes, Steve's the only one covered in leeches.
It's really good. Everybody swamp leeches, and then they look around, and he's the only one who has swamp leeches.
There's so many of them on him.
He's covered.
It's so funny. Really, just me?
Yeah, and I love how he says this. Oh man, there used to be a bartender here, Kino. He made the best rum cannonball. Again, just there was a I was reading about the movie, and there's like sort of inspiration from sort of like Great Gatsby or these sort of like high society sort of stories
We just hit
in
the
this.
100-year mark for Great Gatsby, by the way. Just for side note, like the other
Wowie
day. Isn't that
zowie.
wild?
Yeah, that's pretty wild. And I do love this sort of thing of like, oh, he went on vacation here before like the tsunami and this whole like little story about Kino making the best rum cannonball.
Cannonball.
I started saying it, so I just went for it.
This whole abandoned hotel sequence, I love so much. I think it's a beautiful metaphor for Steve Zissou as a whole, which didn't really click with me until he talks about how he spent his honeymoon here. And just like how good of a
Him and
metaphor.
Jacqueline.
How good of a metaphor is that they're in the ruins of some luxurious tropical hotel that he once like held the better days of his life, his glory days.
For sure. And before this moment, which really does feel
With
like
Klaus.
a very low point. Yeah, we have him and Klaus with how he's tired of being B Squad. But he's like, you're the B Squad leader. And I love this. There's a little bit of that like massaging things, being maybe slightly manipulative, but really deep down it is like these guys these guys care about each other. And I love how he says like, that he thought of them as dads. He says, don't let anyone make fun of me for saying so. And he's like, I can't guarantee.
Yeah, everyone's listening. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty good. I love that. He's like, hey, make sure nobody makes fun of me. He's like, I'm not going to tell people not to make fun of you. But you could as easily see him turn
Yeah.
around and be like, all right, everybody, let's not make fun of Klaus about this too much. Like, there's like, but very fun. Very fun
I love
little
it so
approach.
much. And I love that you do, like you said, it's such a silly little conflict, but there is so much character stuff happening in it where it's like, I can see both sides of this relationship where Klaus does feel like he's been kind of sidelined a bit, but also I see it from Steve's perspective, like, no, dude, you are his right-hand man in all, like, intents
I
and
need you to, like, be
like,
out there acting, you know? Like, you know what to do, man. You don't need me to tell you what to do. Like, go lead B Squad. But I do, and he gives a little background about him and Jacqueline, how they spent their honeymoon here, and I love the fun little pun. All right, let's check out, and then which is like, oh well, what a badass, and immediately trips down
falls
all
down
the stairs.
Yeah, this is definitely a low moment for him.
But then he says the Papa Steve thing.
Yeah, he
you
turns
know?
it around. He's
and he also says to Vikram, keep rolling. Let's give him all, like the real.
Yeah, which is I think. This is like what would you call this in the hero's journey? This is kind of like a foreshadowing of the apotheosis, I think, where he's like approaching his rebirth as a character, where he's starting to accept his flaws more, and even if he's joking about giving them the real him here, I think that is kind of the
I don't think he is joking.
Yeah.
He tells him to keep rolling. Like I feel like he's being serious about it.
Yeah, I think so too. And you can't tell if that's a momentary, just I'm so low, I don't care anymore, or if that's a character growth moment. But I think it's both, you know.
Yeah, and then what's so interesting about this is that at that lowest point, he finally is able to reach out and be like, call me Papa Steve.
Yeah,
it's good. It's funny.
It's funny. Yeah, it's
funny and it's
perfectly
cute.
Riding the line, right? Because
Sorry,
it is
cute.
It is still shitty that he won't just let him call him dad.
And he also says, "Sorry, I never acknowledged your existence all these years. Won't let it happen again." It's like good. It's funny him being vulnerable, but still
great
like
script, man. It really
Yeah.
is. We get Cody barking, which alerts them that Bill is in coach check.
Yeah, but we they find him in the coat check, and then the fucking graveyard of Hennessy crew members after that, dude.
Yeah, which is so fucked up. Pirates have killed Hennessy's crew, all of them.
Yeah,
and they like made little markers for their
I love how
symbols.
casually later on he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to like he's talking about how he's gonna make a bunch of money from the insurance off the boat because it was well insured. He's gonna need a new crew, obviously." And then he says something about they made soup of my turtles.
Yeah. It's so fucked up.
So fucked up. But here's another great product placement when he goes looking for Cody. Cody finds the pirates in Hennessy.
Oh, that's
He's
right,
wearing a Dr. Pepper t-shirt.
Maybe do they joke about Bill being in coat check, and then they find the graves, and then Cody actually finds him in coat check? I don't know how I wrote this down in this
No,
order.
they find Bill in the coat
And
check.
then they go outside after they find him?
Yeah, they're kind of like, oh, yeah, okay,
Okay.
what's going on here? And then
I just
stumble onto the pirates and Hennessy.
the framing of this scene of them all just casually sitting down and playing poker,
Yeah.
it's just fucking beautiful. And the way he's
Steven, are you rescuing me?
like, yeah, and he just gets, and then he's like, I fold, and then he just shoots him, and then all hell breaks loose. Perfect tone, perfect pitch.
And I love how he gets shot in the chest, but it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
He's just
it
running
never
around
comes-
covering
yeah.
And Ned also he tells Klaus to bring the dynamite.
Dynamite,
And
finally.
then the rest of the everyone's waiting outside, and then just a huge explosion. They love
That makes
their
no
dynamite.
sense. They don't show what happens here. It really doesn't make sense. How did they kill them all and get him out of that room? Like you don't need to know. Whatever.
cares? Yeah.
Whatever.
Now they're running away.
Now they're running away.
And that's when we get the whole the boat was well insured, and fuck, dude, yeah, the shooting and everything, and
Klaus's A squad.
yeah,
Because he has to
Ned
run
and
ahead.
Klaus, yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, you guys are A squad. That's cute. It's good stuff.
He almost shoots Cedric. No.
Cedric, yeah.
He's
And he's like, no, he's a friend. He's like, and I love how the relationship with Bill has gone to the point where, remind me, we'll send him a red cap and a Speedo.
I love that. Yeah, Bill, man. So good.
And then the reveal of the hole in the back of the vault, that's so fucking
Yeah,
silly.
inheritance money's
Again,
gone.
the framing is so well done. The composition is a punchline, you know?
Yep. They forgot Cody. Big frowny face in my notes here.
Goodbye, Cody.
Really
and Ced-
sad that he just a shot of the dog running along the shore as they leave him behind, dude.
Him and
Why you gotta
Cedric.
twist the knife?
Him and Cedric will be hanging out a lot. I also
That
love
does
that.
make me feel better.
I love it's a three-legged dog. I want to shout out the homie Jacob was on the podcast last week. He's got a three-legged
Oh,
dog.
really? I didn't know that.
Otto.
That's so sweet.
Otto's the best. He's my dog son. I am his dog father. And then my good buddy Jet, who I think I mentioned on another episode. He's got a three-legged dog. Looks a lot like Cody, actually. His name is Bruno. Shout out Bruno, lovely little boy.
We love our little boys.
Shout out to all the three-legged dogs I know. Those are the two of them that I know.
Sounds really creepy to say we love little boys in hindsight.
I think my one of my tattoo artists has a three-legged dog as
We
well.
love good boys? Does that sound less creepy?
I like three-legged dogs. Just gonna go with specificity to win the day.
Yeah, that's fair. Ned has made a little...
Yeah, he had planted the seed earlier. He wants to update the insignia.
Yeah, which is super cute. This whole part, man. Yeah, this whole ending, man. It's kind of hard.
It's fun how we just see them reacting to it, right?
Yeah.
And Klaus is so grateful. He's like, you don't get it, man. Like the fact that you put me next to the dolphin, dude. Like that means so
Yeah,
much
when he
to
gets
me.
on the plane, he pulls him aside, just like,
On the whirlybird, you mean?
yes, on the whirlybird. He says, "No, you don't understand. It means a lot to me."
I know, I love it.
That's the catharsis of the relationship. I love the subtle, intricate web weaving of relationships in this story, and how many of them get payoffs. How many of them get I don't know. I do have some mixed feelings on this ending that we'll get into. Like overall, really like it. It's always felt like a bit sudden to me, the ending, but it also works.
I feel like it's got a good flow to it because it is well, fuck, okay, we rescued the Bond Company stooge.
Yeah.
All the money's gone. What do we do now? And Steve is still, even though he's working on repairing his personal relationships, he wants to give up. He's like, let's just go back, and it's Ned who pushes him, right? Who's like, no, come on, dude, what are you doing? Fucking lead us. Let's take up this whirlybird anyway, just to see, because I think they have an inkling that maybe the shark might be around or something, you know. So they let's just go take it up. Let's do something, you know.
Yeah,
And
this is a big send off for Ned. He gets a letter from Jane, and I don't think we ever find out what the letter said, but he read it and they share kind of like a
no,
new-
you do. Yeah, he reads the letter.
Oh, what does it say again?
The funny thing is that the way that he responds is where he's like, he's like, "Oh, what did it say?" And he's like, "Nothing really at all." And it is what she doesn't really say anything at all, other than like she's basically like saying like um that she wants to continue to like get that she's enjoying getting to know him or something like that. So she really isn't saying anything other than like
Yeah, just the
it's
basic
it,
let's keep going.
it's cute. It's
Yeah.
very cute. But yeah, we get the letter, and then Steve pulling out the letter that he kept from Ned. And Wes Anderson always does a great job with these insert shots of like suddenly we're transported to some random like place outside of like the movie for a moment to see like the letter right from Ned as it was originally written, like sitting on some wall.
Yeah,
And it's like
it's such an emotional scene. The letter he wrote him is just like so. It's probably the most heartfelt like thing in this movie in a lot of ways, where it's just like such a genuine wonder and desire to connect with someone he thinks is his father, right? And like,
yeah, I mean also like we know well he doesn't think he's his dad yet at the point when he sends the letter.
do we know when he finds out?
He found out 5 years before his
Okay.
mother died, I think, roughly. Something like that. But yeah, it is like it is this really cool sort of thing to see. Like this guy's so like this guy's so sincere,
Yeah.
and it's very interesting to see what he was like as like a kid. And I love how he like lists the three things. He's like either he's gonna be like an oceanographer,
Yeah.
an architect,
Or a pilot.
or a pilot, and then he ends
Yeah.
up being a pilot. It's very
really
cute.
cute. I think what it is that
Very quaint.
like in terms of Steve Zissou being the main character of this story, and this being a story about him in a lot of ways, just that the wonder and awe that he inspired in us as an audience who sees him as just this kind of like phony kind of shit, not a phony, but like, just like a piece of shit, and what he could be, right? It's the promise of how people see
What he
him.
has been, perhaps.
What he has been, yeah. What is he? What he used to be? Like it seems, because like we were talking about, I really want
What
to see him.
happened to me, dude? What happened to
I
me?
really want to see him as a badass throughout this movie, and in a way, this letter is like the most badass, right? This is, you are a dream to this boy.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And we've had hints of that previously, right? With the guy who's the fan having him sign things, and then with what Jane says at one point to him about like the picture that she had of him. It is very clear that this is a guy like who has a lot of like there's a lot of like mythos almost around him, like a lot of like he is this almost like folkish
Folk hero.
yeah. Of the oceanography community, I guess.
Yeah, it's such a funny, like, just great setting. Great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that this movie exists. But like the final line of this sequence before the the whirlybird
Thank you.
starts crashing is I still wish I could breathe underwater,
Yeah.
which is like such a fucked up line in so many ways, because like they're about to crash into water. He doesn't drown, but like it's also like relating back to this simpler childhood. Like I don't know, it just really tears at me for multiple reasons.
I love it. I love the way that connects them in this like, hey, me too, buddy.
Yeah,
You know,
they both
like-
wish they could breathe underwater. Yeah,
I love that. And then with the sequence of
the whirlybird crashing
the crash, but more so when yes.
when they're in the water,
The
and it's
full red
flashing.
frames,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, this
and
is
then
a wild sequence.
I like I said before, the movie does this a couple times where we have these moments of intense distress, right? Where it feels like everything is just so out of control, and the very frantic cutting and like full just like red frames, and it's such a good like use of like a symbol. And then when they're sitting, the camera's in the water and Ned is talking to Steve and like
the way
talking
the
about like
waves are crashing over the camera
and
while
they're red.
talking.
We saw in like There Will Be Blood, this sort of like,
well, you see, it's
and
an
we've seen it in like
escalation.
Jaws where
Yeah.
you have the camera that's like bobbing in the water and the water level is coming up
I love this.
like to consume the entire camera. And as it's like slowly doing that, we see more and more of it, and it's the underwater is completely red.
Yeah.
It's like so cool, like
Yeah.
so well
It's
done.
such a good reveal of how bad the situation is, because it doesn't start with the water
Yeah,
isn't
absolutely.
bright red.
It
It's
is all.
like
It's also like very, very like filmic. It's not. That's not what would really happen, you know. But it is just such a great visual sort of like cue of like death,
yeah,
danger, and again, this is like this connection to this importance of this color red
yeah,
that is adventure and to like seek.
ambition perhaps,
Yeah, for sure. I think ambition, but not in like a negative way. I think
passion.
yeah, for sure. I think the idea of delving into the unknown to seek to understand it and the inherent danger that is part of that process, right? All of that encapsulated in the choice and the use of red throughout this movie, because the red cap, you know, we have constantly throughout, like, you know, and then yeah, blood. It's so well done, so well shot too, and I love Ned's just like kind of going off, like talking about like, oh, what could I have done, like,
Yeah.
like to have kept us from crashing, right?
Yeah, yeah, which is a really sad way for him to die, because he's like, I probably wouldn't have made a difference. That's like basically his last lines,
Which is true. I mean, that's that. Yeah, ultimately, it is about like, in a way, there's a bigger sort of like flow to the world, right? That we can't.
Yeah, I guess it's like it's sad, but it's like also just an acceptance of no, it wasn't my fault. This was inevitable.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I also like they do see the fluorescent snapper before they crash, which is
Right.
so fucking stick, right? Because we have this sort of thing of like, oh shit, the jaguar shark, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
then the shot of Ned carry, I mean not Ned, sorry, of Ned, well Ned in Steve's arms,
Yeah, being
he's
carried
carrying him
ashore,
to shore, you know?
dramatic as hell.
Yeah, I mean, I did definitely in my head, I was like, are they really that close to a shore? Like, where the? I mean, I guess they were
Yeah,
right by the island, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Then we get go back to the Belafonte and Klaus now saying some words over Ned's body. All the pilots are there, you
What a
know.
fucking bummer his death is, man. I remember the first time I saw this, it almost reminded me, spoilers for No Country for Old Men. In some ways, it reminds me, like, it's not quite
Yeah.
as dramatic, but it reminds me of just like, wait, what? He's dead?
Yeah.
Just like that? What?
Yeah. It is. It is very much so. Like I feel like, again, like I was saying earlier, it's a death done in a way that when you know it's coming, it's so much easier to handle, because there's those deaths that like in a movie where it's so like that's so brutal or it's so like tragic that you like it'll still really get you, and it does get me, but like I just feel like it's like so gentle
Yeah.
in the way that he dies
Yeah.
and the way that he's like laid to rest.
Yeah.
She puts the envelopes back in his casket.
I think what's implied there is she filled out all the letters and then put them in there, which is just like, damn, that's
Yeah,
really
wow.
beautiful.
Yeah, that is really cute. That is very, very touching. And then we have the all hands bury the dead, you know, and they fucking toss him overboard. And I love that shot of Eleanor in
watching
the-
from the observatory.
Eleanor in the observation bubble while like you know.
Observation. I'm sorry, it's just
That's what it's called, dude.
I know. I'm just thinking back to that scene and just how silly it all is, but
But yeah, she's and we have Pele singing this very sad song as well. Oh, we finally see the flag too.
yeah,
know,
yeah. That's the only time we see it. Wild. Yeah, it's really fucking sad.
I think there's like maybe another point where we see it, but maybe not.
Not that I noticed, at least. And then we get another, acoustic guitar palette cleanser here, and it's just
Yeah.
like, damn, dude, so effective. Like, really, just like, because that's such a heavy part, and it's like, okay, no, the movie's not done yet. And then we get, I like. Steve says this is the first time he's ever seen Eleanor cry.
Yeah, pretty wild. We also have Hennessy like, is this my espresso machine? And Bill just goes, we fucking stole it, man.
Yeah.
I fucking love that.
Yeah, just him realizing that they stole his stuff, but also, it's just great. Again, like I was saying, the intricate webs of relationships here, where there's so much, where it's just, it doesn't feel like they can wrap it up, but then you have the perfect catharsis for Hennessy, and like he's just like, oh yeah, because that's hanging over the whole movie, like, oh, he's gonna find out they stole his shit, like, oh no, that's gonna like cause drama, and he's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, they,
whatever.
they saved my life. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, we've been shitty.
And he says the things, we've
Yeah,
never made great
yeah,
husbands.
yeah. We've been
And
shitty
then
husbands.
this is the part that's supposed to excuse the use of the homophobic slurs throughout the movie, right?
Right,
Where he says, "I've got a good excuse. I'm part gay," and Steve says, "Supposedly everyone is."
right.
Hmm. And there is I do like I said before, I do like that sort of touch at the end, but you know, 2025, you make that movie, probably don't use those words.
Yeah. No, it is. It was surprising to hear.
Yeah.
No, but it fits. Like, it reminds me of stuff I hear, like, the N word in the '90s, for example, where it's just like this is very harsh to hear now, but I understand why it's in this movie.
I mean, I guess it depends on whether or not you listen to rap music. I guess it also depends on who's doing it. Like, because when it is white
Yeah.
people, that is like what's really like, yeah,
Yeah.
very shocking. Like
Yeah, yeah.
when you watch like a Tarantino script, like the true romance scene with fucking Harvey Keitel
Yeah.
talking to Christopher Walken about Sicilians.
Yeah.
That shit is like really hard to watch these days. But
Yeah, but it fits what these type of people would be talking about.
oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. Like and in the time period,
Yeah.
of course, as well. And I love the line because again, it is this whole sort of thing of like people are sort of like contradictions, and we hold a lot of different ideas together, and they don't necessarily need to gel in this perfect way, because he says to Eleanor that he wanted to like adopt Ned, and she's like, he was 30, but I would have considered it. Like I love that. And
Yeah.
and Eleanor knows like that's not your real son, but that doesn't matter, right? What matters is that he felt like a son to you.
Yeah.
And it is like this whole thing of like it's such like a nuanced sort of like relationship, which is so human.
Yeah, and just glazing Eleanor some more. Like, we've talked about, like, a lot of why we like her so much is the power and direction she brings, but she also fills the void of Ned, I think, for the end of this movie, where uh she's kind of Steve's emotional crutch for like the little bit that's left of the movie, right? Where it's
Well,
like,
I think actually everyone is his emotional
totally,
crutch, and
totally, but
there's
she's the most like important one to Steve in a way, right? Like, this is what
I would say what the ending really shows is like him and Jane, because Jane is like
yeah,
a connection to Ned because
True,
she was
true,
so
true.
close to him, right?
I do love the whole
We're a dying breed.
well, just Steve reading Jane's article, and him telling her you're a good writer, and like that he's very happy. It felt like the perfect cathartic, him accepting that his flaws are what make him.
Yeah, he also accepts that he is like someone who's a bit of a showboat, like, and that's
Yeah.
what he says. I love that acceptance of like, this is who I am, and I'm
People
okay
are gonna
with that.
think I'm a bit of a prick, a bit of a showboat, but I guess I am.
Yeah,
Basically, yeah. Which is great. You're a good writer. And she tells him it's the effing cover, and they're both so happy. That's like, the real emotional catharsis of their storylines, and then
Yeah.
you get this great they found the
the
jaguar
monitor's
shark.
back up.
And I love
shark is
this
close.
so much because it's the classic, oh, we found the thing. Like I said, it's been in the background the whole movie, so it's not like the whole movie's been building up to them finding it to an extent. Like, it has been, but just like very much in the background. But I love this theme of what should be the emotional catharsis of the film is the exact opposite of why it's the emotional catharsis. They go down to the jaguar shark.
Well, I also just love that we have this very wide shot of everyone sitting like sort of
Yeah.
in like the living room, and he says, "Want to go for a ride?" Right, or
Yeah.
something like that, and then we cut to all of them in the submarine,
Yeah,
and we hear the little thing where he plays the tape, and it goes, "Ned's theme, take one," and it's like another one of these like sort
I
of
think
like
it's one of the ones from earlier, if I recall. I think it might be the same one when they go to the sunken submarine or the sunken plane or whatever.
And we get more of all these really cool animated creatures.
Yeah,
We see that one of
very fun.
Hennessy's research turtles has survived.
Yeah. You get a pan, not a pan, but like a shot of each of them looking out the window of the submarine, and
Everybody sees something.
something
Yeah.
different. Yeah, and Hennessy sees one of his turtles. It's just like a nice, like, it's like the movie is like, okay, so again, sorry for the spoilers for No Country for Old Men, but like that last act of the movie is kind of exploring the philosophical, like, what was this movie about elements, and it feels like this kind of final sequence is a much more like positive kind of look at something like that, where like now let's feel the catharsis for these characters.
It's also like, let's rediscover wonder, right?
yeah,
Like, what
yeah,
are we doing here?
yeah.
We're explorers.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, I think it's so good because everything's been building up to this, and yet it hasn't been the focus, just like it hasn't been the focus for Zissou. Uh, and yet when you finally get there, you understand why it is the focus and why there is value to what they're doing, even though it hasn't been the focus, which really is his character arc, right? Is appreciating like why he's doing this. you
Yeah, and
know?
and what I love is the ultimate reaction, right? We get the fluorescent snapper. We see the jaguar shark finally, and it is so beautiful. And I love
I mean, it's really goofy. It's a jaguar shark.
yeah, but within the context of
Yes,
the other, like we've
yes,
had
within the context
we've
of
had
the film,
so many
it's
different
beautiful,
like
yeah.
creatures set up that like sure it's silly, but like I've been watching this movie for 2 hours. My eyes are attuned to this style, and
Yeah.
to me, I was struck by its beauty. I was just like, what a fucking sick looking shark. This is like a marvel of nature.
Yeah.
And I love the question. I love the way that it's just like the little blinking like tracker, and then like it comes into the light, and Klaus goes, "Is that him?" And Steve doesn't answer. It's Hennessy who goes, "That's him, Klaus," because he knows, right? Like he
Yeah.
sees it, and he's immediately like, because everyone's making
Yeah.
fun of Zissou, and there's this
Yeah.
whole doubt about like, is the shark even real?
Yeah.
Throughout the movie,
And I just
and
thought
like the moment that Hennessy sees it, like it's like so obvious to him, like that's it. That's why he called it the jaguar shark. It's almost like also a validation from like a colleague, right, in the field, where he's like, "I get you, bro.
yeah, they
I
even
see
have
it.
more
There it is."
catharsis between them. That's a good point too. Yeah, and I think I just realized this just clicked for me right now is that this is a good metaphor for Zissou as well, which is like everyone sees him as a washed up kind of nobody to an extent. Not a nobody, but just kind of like a has been, you know? And their denial of him even seeing such a mythical creature is part of that that story around him. So the unveiling of that, and he even starts to be like, oh, I don't know if it's real. You know, you kind of get the hint.
No, he did say, yeah, at one point he's like, "I don't know what I saw." Like,
Yeah.
I think with him and Ned going back and forth. I also love how the tracker blinking red light,
Right.
red of discovery, red of danger. You know,
Totally. But just like on that point, him not believing in himself
Yeah, for
anymore.
sure.
Him not believing
For
in
sure.
his own story, his own quest, and then the confirmation that no, you are valid.
it is very much like it's like he has put on the act for so long, he is used to doing it, but he
Yeah.
doesn't believe it anymore.
Yeah. And this is confirmation like, hey, there is something here.
Yeah, absolutely, and I love it. It's awesome. Like, a lot of great little lines. "Are we safe in here? I doubt it." And he's like, "Should we blow it up?" And he's like, "No,
We don't have the
we're,
dynamite
we're out of
anyway.
dynamite anyway." I love it's like always like there's two reasons to it. You know, like
Right. It's
like
not
he
just
gives you-
because I'm a good guy.
yeah, he gives like a simple sort of, yeah, we're out of dynamite now. But I love the line, "I wonder if it remembers me," and then he
Yeah.
starts to cry.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
It's
It's
good.
like
It's
it's not
good.
"I wonder if it remembers me." It's like, "I wonder if they'll remember me.
Yeah.
I wonder if they remember who I was when I was great," you know?
Yeah, no, this scene when they all put their hands on his shoulder, I teared up a bit.
And he
Pretty
puts his
powerful.
hand on Jane's
Oh, his
stomach.
belly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cute. Yeah. No, powerful stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, and there's this like look of like, yeah, it's just very beautiful, like little emotional moment, everyone coming together like this, especially in a movie that is one of these like movies we're talking about with like the crew, and from the beginning the crew is introduced. They've always been in the background, and then they're all like there lending their emotional support for like their leader, you know?
Yeah.
It's really lovely.
Yeah, well, in as we've talked about, he's kind of been undermined the whole film in a lot of ways. People just kind of always talking down to him or kind of blowing him off or talking to him as if he's been a has-been. Same with like Eleanor even, right? But then here we see them all like, coming together for him, which is, yeah,
It's good. It's good
really
shit. I love the little baby in the red cap
good.
when they screen the second part
Yeah.
of the adventure of the jaguar shark or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, and to start the movie in the theater and
Of
then
course.
to end the movie in the
You
theater,
gotta.
it's so good. Yeah,
And then I love how it's like he's not even in there. Like we
Yeah.
push in on his chair. He's outside
Yes.
smoking a doobie,
Which
you know?
I would argue is his apotheosis, because
He doesn't even care.
Yeah,
But
everything was about making this film.
But the award is sitting next to him too.
Yeah.
So I think the moment that is even clearer is when he stands up with the kid on his, puts the kid on his shoulders, and walks away and leaves. Like, you see that he doesn't pick it up.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't even care about it's not about the awards anymore.
Yeah.
It's about doing it for the good of fucking science, brother, discovery.
Yeah, and doing it for people. Doing it for this little boy on his shoulders, right?
Hell yeah,
doing
exactly. For the future, for the future explorers.
For the kids, yeah, for the ones who, he used to, for Ned.
For Ned.
Yeah.
Absolutely for Ned. Dude, this episode is dedicated to Ned.
Yeah, it's really fucking sad. Yeah, and so like I was saying earlier, it's always felt very sudden to me until I meditated on it last night after I watched it. And I think, again, through the lens of Cinema Forecast, it's given me the extra push to no, come on, why is the ending like that? Why is it so just okay, here's the ending. We found the shark, boom, credits, basically. And it's like what we talked about. It's that the arc is done. The apotheosis is complete. The hero's journey is complete. It's just there is part of me that feels like, is there a way to have more of a emotional send off here? But it's I don't know. It still does feel sudden to me to this day, is what I'll say. But I think it's a great ending, story-wise, narratively.
Yeah, I mean, and then we get the credits over all these really cool scenes of
Yes.
The kid's a member of the crew, the intern is also a member, Bill's there, Hennessy's there too.
Yeah, them walking down the pier.
Yeah.
I love that. Great. In terms of just visually uplifting ending. Yeah, and I love the look of it. I love when they get on the boat that Ned is just on the top with his knee up, like a ghost hanging over the ship with the pipe in his mouth. You know what I'm talking about? That's the final. They're walking down the pier at the end, and they come up on the boat, and Ned is just because it's just one big shot of the boat. Ned's on the top smoking his pipe, and I'm like, oh, perfect. Super, a little creepy, a little unsettling, but perfect.
That's sick. Yeah, good stuff for sure.
Yeah, and
then of course the credits that we talked about before.
Yeah, the Queen Bitch David Bowie song.
Into Seu Jorge doing it in Portuguese. Good stuff. Really good. Really well done. Entertaining credits. I love that too. That was cool concept. Never cut to black. All of the credits are over something that's been filmed.
And just the
makes
the
you watch
atrocity
it to the end.
That Amazon wanted to skip the whole credits. I was like, what are you doing?
How dare they? You want to talk tier ranking?
Yeah. I can go first if you'd like. This movie I wrestle with a little bit in terms of, I feel like it is S tier worthy. I think personally I'm gonna give it an A tier. I think, and it's one of those movies I could see turning into an S tier. As I view it again, like I said, it's only the third time I've seen it, and I clicked with it a lot more this time. I guess it lacks a certain drive to the story that keeps it away from S tier, but that's not always necessary. But yeah, awesome movie, love it.
Yeah, I think that I would say within the pantheon of movies that I really like a lot and that mean something to me, I think The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. I feel like my sister and I both really like that movie a lot, connected over how fun it was. So within that, I do feel I think of it as sort of being an S tier movie, but when I put on my analysis hat a little bit more, I think some of the criticisms about Esteban and about the sort of blow are definitely legitimate. And I would say overall I would give it an A. I think the reason it goes up to S for when I'm oh, it's definitely a Fredo movie is because of the vibes. I
it's so
buy in to the vibes of the pulpiness of oh, you're telling me there's a movie about a team of like explorers, like oceanographers. Like I love that, and they're all like quirky, and they like smoke cigarettes, and they're like all like yeah, all that. You know, there's a
and it's
pinball
just so
machine, like
artistically done
yeah,
and
for
like
sure.
so well
But it's like
executed.
knowing his other movies and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like that's not the pinnacle of what Wes Anderson does. Like it's really well done, and like I like there's just these big things like the set
Yeah.
that like I buy
Yeah.
into, and like I was saying about was a big toy kid, and like oh man, I would love to have a set of that. But I can acknowledge that it is like in the sort of pantheon of films. I would put it at like an A when I put on my analyst hat.
Word. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I definitely think it's worthy of S though. Like if someone is like, this is an S film and it's like perfect, I can see that angle because I could like there is a perfection to its own like uniqueness. I would say just that it is such its own thing.
For sure, for sure. I feel like I can honestly go either way.
Yeah, and I
Like
was on the
if
border
somebody
a little, you know.
if if somebody like talked to me, I
Yeah.
could see going down to like a B. That
Oh,
doesn't
really? Oh, that kind
or
of
up
other
to
way.
an S. Like either way is
Yeah.
what I mean. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
but it
Gotcha.
wouldn't stop it from being just like a personal favorite, right?
Gotcha. Yeah, I think how many things this movie lands and how fun it is and the fact that it wouldn't let me stop
For
notes,
sure.
it's like no, it's at least an A.
I would love to like have like to reflect on this with someone with a woman, right, or someone who is maybe more well versed in like you know feminist theory and like maybe like queer like culture to talk about like how like some of those parts sort of like reflect so like I think like maybe discussions like that could kind of like maybe bump it down if it is like well really like we're like maybe glorifying this sort of like typical incompetent like man slob, but being a bit of an incompetent man slob, you know, don't hate the player, hate the game. I guess. I'm just kidding, but you know what I mean, right? Like
Yeah.
where there are these things, these angles that I'm not really like approaching it from that I think could be places of criticism that would make me definitely
Yeah.
consider it. But again, like I said, love this movie. It's definitely like in my sort of like retinue of like cozy films that I would throw on just to like, you know, I don't want to think about anything. Like maybe I had a rough time and just gonna like get lost like under the sea, you know.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely one I'll keep watching throughout my
For sure.
life.
It's
you
a
know?
good one.
It's really good.
As was teased before, I've got my little list
Yeah.
here. And I'm just gonna go through it real quickly because we're going a little long, but hey, what's up? You know, that's
Hey, I
film
mean,
analysis, you know.
Yeah, and this is our finale for
It is
Aquatic
our
Film.
finale. It is
Yeah.
our finale. Our last finale was 6 hours and 20 minutes. So, you know, I think we're probably way under that, so we'll be okay. But so when talking about like aquatic films, just like in desert films, we were talking about well, let me break down my big sort of overarching themes, and a lot of them really feed into one another. I have isolation, longing, freedom, discovery, the unknown, nature, and the indifference of the universe. And all of these kind of lined up in a way that I feel like they flow really well from one to another.
Like the ocean, man.
Exactly.
But also just want to like really quick say just how many, and we talked about this in episode 1, how many, or episode 1 of the aquatic episodes, how many of those overlap with mine directly. Like I think you only have like 1 or 2 that aren't on my list.
A lot of it is well, for this I literally like went back and listened to us at the Pirates of the Caribbean episode.
Culmination.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just like I did with the desert one as well. And this one is also based off of the list I made for the desert one. So it is a sort of an amalgamation of all those things. But with isolation, when we're talking about technical things, we want these wide shots with lonely subjects showing the vastness of the ocean. With sound design, I really love the deep noises like whale sounds or some of the shit that we get in like Jaws, you know, and it carries over long distances. The whole idea of self-reliance and survival. We have a lot of these close-up insert shots of like survival procedures. Definitely like something we didn't get as much in this movie, but we did have a lot of like nitty-gritty about like the technical works of the boat, right?
Yeah,
and then
even if a lot of it was mumbo jumbo.
Sure, exactly, yeah. And then within that, like there is this self-reliance and survival. There's the ingenuity of like intelligent characters like being able to solve problems. We got a lot of that with like Elizabeth, like in Pirates of the Caribbean, and sort of the
Mm,
cat and mouse that develops with that with like Barboza
yeah,
and Jack Sparrow.
totally.
And the thing that I decided to say for this one instead of like the like sort of pioneer propriety is like the what I mentioned before is like culture, the morphing of culture
Yeah,
to these environments,
yeah,
and how they like when we ask ourselves, what does this look like when this is where we exist, when this is our context?
yeah.
And it's so much about etiquette. We see that in Waterworld, we
Mm,
see that in Pirates of the
for sure.
Caribbean, we saw that in Jaws,
Yeah,
and in this film as well. Like so much about like what's the appropriate way to approach this. And I think one of the great things about Life Aquatic is that it really breaks the expectation, which is
mm,
what makes for some really good comedy.
yeah,
Then talking about longing, it's not just for things past, but for a new life or for what is to come. There is some tragedy to it. There is some excitement to it. And this, a lot of those shots of subjects looking off in the distance, and it works so well with the like ocean shots, like a lot of these really lovely shots, just like, and it lines up again with the like isolated subject in like a vast frame. And sort of leading into that is freedom, not just from being constrained, but from the rules of society to create your own culture,
yeah,
to morph culture to be what you want it to be when you
yeah.
float along, and
And
build your own world, right?
and if I can add to that a little bit, I think that that freedom also ties into the man versus nature aspect of when you desire freedom, you are not necessarily embarking on your freedom in a zone that is yours by nature, right? Which is the ocean or the desert.
Right, for sure, absolutely. All of these like really like I felt like fed into each other so much that I would love to take more time to like be able to find like a maybe like better sort of way to like classify it. But again,
Mm,
that's what the whole
yeah, that's what we're doing
project is
here.
with the
Yeah,
podcast. So we'll see how this evolves as we go through. But
totally.
and then within freedom, of course, or leading from freedom into discovery, right? Like it's you know this idea of being the first one. I feel like, and the ocean is so unknown
Yeah.
that it provides so much of this opportunity, like to be the first one to find a new species of fish or something, right?
Or to find the underwater city, or to find
Yeah,
the lost treasure, or to
or
find
unexplored land like an
yeah,
island, right?
yeah,
Like, and this leads so much into the unknown. We want to dive into the unknown and come back with a little piece of it and show like,
right.
look what I did.
Which is a great narrative
Yeah.
storytelling
This is
vessel.
very, and it's
Yeah.
also very dangerous but captivating,
Yeah.
Some of it like, and I love the idea that there's the unknown that we can know and there's the unknown that we could never fathom, to
Yeah.
use another depth word,
Yeah.
if you will. And all of this
Totally.
leading into nature being a great sort of stand-in for the unknown, right? And not just that, but it is this whole sort of like give like giving and taking of like we are a part of nature, but we can't help but see ourselves as opposed to it in so many of these places where we
Right.
feel like it's working against
Or
us.
sometimes just like helpless victims to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that even plays into the whole idea of like resources. But along the more technical aspects with nature in the aquatic, instead of this sort of like blue beige contrast or blue yellow contrast, we get so many more shades of blue. We get the blue, the green, and the grays, this murky unknown. And I think it really speaks to how much more vast and unknowable the ocean feels than those desert settings, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And along the lines of what we talked about with the sanctity of land, I just put the sanctity of what is scarce, of resources, and the importance of that. And that again feeds into culture and etiquette and how do we deal around those. And when we're talking about resources, it can be, especially in saltwater, right, on the ocean, drinking water, land, food, oil, cigarettes, gold, or even piss,
Yeah.
as we saw in
Even
Waterworld.
piss.
There's all about, and I love that the play with the resources and scarcity is survival versus power, or survival as power.
Yeah.
Like you have other people's survival in your hands. And we
Yeah.
definitely saw that at play in the
All-
desert ones.
Yeah, for sure. I
All
mean,
of this feeding again into man versus man versus nature.
man
right?
versus himself, right? I'm thinking
Yeah.
of just Jaws, him destroying the radio because he wants to take care of the shark himself, right? And how they're in the palm of his hand, the main heroes of the story, right? Where it's like his own madness is driving him to complete this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I I don't have like insanity as its own thing, because to me it is the insanity is the relationship between man and the unknowable unknown, really.
Yeah.
And then within that, of course, the to get as big as possible, the indifference of the universe, huge ocean teeming with life. Like, we're not the only
Sometimes you're just gonna get snatched up by a jaguar shark, and there's
for
nothing you
sure,
can do.
absolutely. And we're also not the only fruit of the womb of life, of the womb of the world that is the ocean, right? And I love, like, whales are such good visual representations of how tiny we are,
Yeah.
right? So it's good shit like that. And then the last thing within that same one is chance versus destiny. And the ocean is great for this, much better than the desert, because of charting a course versus the currents, right? Like, and the
yeah.
storms that you can have, like that shit that will
Yeah.
easily throw you off course. And of course, we have sandstorms, but like, it just works for me much better, like in an ocean setting, right? That whole being lost and like your plans don't really matter.
Even what you stand on is not within your control. Like at
Yeah.
least if you're standing in the desert, your feet
Yeah.
are planted on the ground. You are completely. If you're in a storm on a boat in the middle of an ocean, you are completely at the whims of nature.
Yeah, it's so true, so true. But yeah, that's what I got.
I love it. That was an awesome breakdown.
Thanks, man.
Good stuff.
I appreciate it. I guess the time has perhaps come.
Oh my gosh, you even wrote it at the top. What does that say at the top there?
It says the legally distinct movie roulette.
There it is.
And then just to recap some of the categories we have.
Yeah.
And as we were saying at the beginning of the episode, I wanted to touch on them a little bit because we have been so setting dependent
Yeah.
with these last two categories.
Which was not the rest of them, so it's funny because I feel like, yeah, like you're thinking and probably disclaiming here is like it kind of comes off as like, oh, we're just gonna be covering like the elements, like what is man and lava.
No, yeah,
you know?
definitely not. It's just like a bunch of random shit we thought was fun. So I do think something like Trapped is like us almost going into the isolation theme in a way again.
Yeah.
And finding the different parts of that.
Yeah, it's gonna be so cool by the end of all
Then
these, just to see how all these themes tie in with each other for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, then we have aliens, which is definitely the indifference of the universe, right? And man versus nature,
the unknown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even
the unknown.
longing. Yeah,
yeah.
There's a lot of sea and desert in aliens, I think, actually.
Yeah. It could be anyone. That feels also like we're touching in again on some isolation stuff, or like again on the cold indifference of the universe, or the unknown.
I love that.
That's it's good. It's all gonna be coming back up, dude.
Yeah.
It's basically like Cinema Forecast is essentially gonna turn every movie into like every movie's about like isolation, the cold indifference of the universe, bro.
Dude, it's all just Lovecraftian horror, my guy.
And people who are good at stuff, that feels this one is interesting because I like this where we're getting more into people. Like talking about them like more specifically, because I feel like a lot of our
study stuff to an extent. Yeah.
Exactly. I feel like that is gonna be like feel a little bit different than some of the other stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Then we got Out of Order.
That's almost like the composition of films itself, right? Like storytelling.
Yes, but why are you telling the story out of order?
Yeah.
Right. And that's I can't even really.
Like what are our themes for that? Yeah, it's gonna be fun to get to that. Yeah.
I mean, we haven't really talked a lot of time stuff, like to quote a doctor I know, timey-wimey.
Yeah, we gotta get timey-wimey with it.
I'm not a big Doctor Who fan. I used to be, but I just thought I'd throw it in there. Why not? And then we have the movies in motion, which again feels a little bit setting-ish.
Yeah.
Right, but
yeah, that's more of like that was one of our more goofy categories for sure. I'm very interested.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, because it's about the setting of why are it, like you said for all these other ones. Why are you telling a story where the whole story is in motion? What is that doing for the story, and what is it representing of the characters?
I think the movies in motion will be a lot of like chance versus destiny, or like having to adjust to the trajectory or plans of something greater than yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
All right, with that being said,
I'm very excited. This is actually like, I know we say we're very excited all the time, and I am excited, but this is genuinely always extremely exciting because it's a month of us wondering, well, what are we going to do after this? What are we going to do after Aquatic Films? We have no idea what we're about to watch, so let's find out.
You ready?
Spin that bad boy.
All right, here we go. Spin it to win it, baby.
Alrighty, it's spinning, folks. It's spinning. Oh, it's slowing down. What we got? What we got? Oh,
People who are good at stuff.
Oh shit!
People who are good at
Oh,
stuff.
I'm so excited for this category. We were just talking about character study stuff. Wow.
Very excited.
And
Very stoked to see how this is gonna go.
we had a last minute swap, and this is a movie that was swapped in that we will be doing next week. Which is called. It's based off a French novel from the 1800s, I believe.
Can I say really quickly? I met a guy the other day. He was sitting at the bar at my work, and he was just chatting with this other solo diner next to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I mean like, this is my job, whatever. But my real passion is like I like to make perfumes, right?"
Oh wow.
And I told him he should watch this movie, and he was asking me questions. And why don't you go ahead and say the name of the movie? I just want to say really, I've never seen this movie before.
Yes, which is super fun. This is our first. There's a couple on this list that one or the other has not seen.
There's some movies we both haven't seen.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Oh wait, on this list specifically,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
On the whole, on the list as a whole, yeah.
We have a bunch of lists for the categories that are not planned for this year, and there's definitely movies on that neither of us have seen.
I think there's some in the other categories that didn't get picked as well that we both haven't seen.
Oh, interesting. Right. That makes sense. Yeah. The movie is Perfume: The Story of a Murderer, which is probably the least popular movie we've done so far, if I had to guess. I don't know many people who have actually seen this movie or talked about this movie. This is a movie that really blew me away when I saw it, and yeah, I was just thinking about it the other night.
Remember he watched it and he wouldn't stop talking about it, and then he explained the whole movie to me.
Yeah, that checks out. And I think my dad was the one who recommended it because he read the novel. And the novel he thought was like, my dad isn't a big movie guy, but he's a big novel guy. And he thought the book
a big
was
novel guy, even maybe like a writer. Even
he is a writer. Yeah. He thought the book was a masterpiece. And yeah, I was just thinking about this movie the other night, and it just popped into my head. I was like, oh, I guess that would be a people who are good at stuff movie, and that's like he is extremely good at stuff. So let's throw it on there, and I'm very excited to watch it with you, Alfredo.
I'm very interested to watch it. I already know what happens.
Do you remember me explaining the whole thing? Like,
yeah, I remember what happens at the end.
That's great.
It's also very interesting that you did that because, like,
yeah, I don't know what the context.
Connor is well, everybody hates spoilers. But Connor will be quick to remind people not to spoil things.
Oh yeah. No, I probably was just like very excited to talk about it. I'm like, can I just tell you what the plot is?
You also several times with like during our friendship have been like, man, remember when we watched that movie? And I'm like, no, but I remember you describing the entire plot to me.
Yeah. So I guess this is gonna be fun. I'm very excited. I'm very excited for people who are good at stuff. I think it's one of our like sillier titles that has turned into a really interesting list, and I think it's gonna be a really fun month.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm stoked to like. There's some good stuff on here. I remember I told my buddy, "Oh yeah, we have this category called people who are good at stuff." And he's like, "That's like every movie." But like, I think maybe just to very quickly explain, it is like, as we say, character studies and character studies of people who excel at like a very specific thing. And what I like about that is that like the movie then has this whole flavor of like, you know, like for example, this whole movie we just watched was all about like oceanographic research. That's the whole like sort of framing of it, right?
Yeah.
And so for all of these movies, we're gonna dive into the world of that movie, right? Like in this one, we're gonna sort of dive into the world of Sense, I assume, and then I won't spoil what other movies are coming up, but you know, kind of cool to just like let's fucking focus in on this one specific thing.
This skill set that they have complete mastery of is really the gist of the category.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Where they are the best at what they do. You know, that's what the movie's about.
I'm excited. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be really good shit. Well, thank you so very much, y'all. You know, as we've said several times, please, you know, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a 5-star rating wherever you check us out. And we are, of course, Cinema Forecast, FOURCAST. Find us on social media. Let us know what's up. Let us know what you think. And I have been Alfredo, and
This is Connor.
y'all have a lovely evening. Thank you so much.
Good night.